Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. On behalf of Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to everyone of you for joining us on today's forum. My name is Wonbin Park, Deputy Director of KIEP Office. Now let us begin the official opening of today's forum. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Lee with a big hand of applause.
His Excellency, Ambassador Seong-ho Lee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Korea-India Future Economy and Industry Forum 2026 here in New Delhi. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our Delhi office for organizing this timely and wonderful event. I also thank all our distinguished speakers and participants for joining us today. From many corners of the policy community, we are hearing that this year would be a milestone year for advancing the Korea-India economic partnership. Among the many positive developments, the Korean president planned visit to India this year, the first in more than 7 years, is expected to create a new momentum for further strengthening our bilateral relationship. There are many promising areas for deeper cooperation between two countries, including trade, investment, mobility, culture, and security. In particular, the importance of industrial cooperation is becoming even more evident in an era marked by geopolitical and geoeconomic turmoils and supply chain reconfiguration. India and Korea possess highly complementary industrial strength. Together, we are creating value far greater than the sum of our individual capacities. Korea views India as a key partner in global value chains, and Korean companies are important participants in India's Make in India initiative. At the same time, India has also become an important destination for innovation and research and development by Korean companies. Looking ahead, one particular promising area for bilateral cooperation is shipbuilding, which is also the focus of today's forum. This forum has been designed to provide an in-depth platform for discussions on the current status, future prospects, government policies, and Korea-India cooperation related to the shipbuilding sector. As the global shipping industry undergoes massive structural transformation, driven by decarbonization, digitalization, and supply chain realignment, India's shipbuilding sector is gaining growing strategic importance all around the world. Positioning shipbuilding as a strategic pillar for industrial growth, self-reliance, sustainability, and global competitiveness, the Indian government has set an ambitious goal of becoming one of the world's top 5 shipping building nations by 2047. In this process, Korea can be a valuable partner. Korea's global leadership in advanced shipbuilding technology, smart shipyards, and green vessels complement India's growing market demand, abundant workforce, and expanding industrial ecosystem. At the same time, much remains to be done to explore this great potential and sustain the momentum. The shipbuilding industry involves a complex value chain and requires tremendous investment in skilled human capital, infrastructure, technology, and a long-term partnership. Therefore, transforming dialogue into agreements and agreements into concrete projects will require continued engagement and insight from governments, industrial leader, and the research community. With this in mind, I encourage all participants and speakers today to share their valuable perspectives on the current status and the future prospect of India's shipbuilding policies, as well as on the interest and the potential contribution of Korea stakeholders in supporting the sustainable development of India's shipbuilding sector. I'm quite confident that today's discussions will offer valuable insight and help identify particular and practical pathway for Korea-India cooperation in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We truly appreciate you sharing your insight with us today to set the stage for today's forum. Then, His Excellency Seong-ho Lee, Ambassador of the Embassy of the Republic of Korea, will come forward to deliver word of congratulatory remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador with a big applause.
Dr. Siwook, President of Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, KIEP, Director Bhuvnesh, Singh, Director Vipul, Singhal, from Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, namaskar. It is my great pleasure to deliver congratulatory remarks at the 4th Korea-India Future Economy and Industry Forum. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the KIEP for organizing this timely and meaningful event. I would also like to thank the distinguished panelists and participants for joining us today. This forum comes at a particularly meaningful moment for India's maritime development. Through initiatives such as Maritime India Vision 2030 and Maritime Amrit Kaal 2047, India has set out an ambitious vision to emerge as a major hub in the global maritime economy. Media headlines speak of India setting sail for global maritime power and charting a confident course in global maritime transformation. This is truly exciting news and a worthy goal for India. Korea shares this enthusiasm and see it as a promising opportunity to elevate our cooperation to a new level. Indeed, Korea and India possess strong complementarities in shipbuilding and maritime industries. Korea is a global leader in advanced shipbuilding technologies and high-value vessels. India, in turn, offers a dynamic maritime market, a growing industrial base, and strong policy commitment to developing its maritime sector. We are already seeing concrete progress in this area. Over the past year, all three major Korean shipbuilding companies, HD Hyundai, Samsung Heavy Industry, and Hanwha Ocean, have engaged with India to explore opportunities for cooperation. Important steps have already been taken, including MOUs with Indian shipyards and exchanges of high-level government and industry delegations. More recently, many Indian newspapers report on HD Hyundai's partnership with government of Tamil Nadu to develop a shipbuilding ecosystem in Thoothukudi, emulating Ulsan, South Korea's premier shipbuilding hub. Headlines describing the vision of creating a second Ulsan or Ulsan in Thoothukudi clearly reflect the great optimism and strong commitment of both Korea and India to deepen shipbuilding cooperation. I had a very productive conversation with the CEO of HD Hyundai a few weeks back, and I can assure you that they have a big plan for their operations in India. Importantly, both Korea and Indian government are taking this early stage of shipbuilding cooperation very seriously and fully appreciate its immense value. We are taking a strategic, long-term approach together, bringing our companies closer, strengthening network, and finding concrete ways to support capacity building for India's emerging shipbuilding sector. Today, shipbuilding is being discussed at the highest level of government as one of the key areas that can take the Korea-India partnership to the next level. This cooperation is not just about building ships. It is about supply chain resilience, advanced technology, job creation, and sustainability. With upcoming high-level visits and various government-led initiatives to encourage deeper business partnership, we are confident that not only shipbuilding cooperation will continue to grow, but also a truly comprehensive, special strategic partnership between our two countries across the board, including defense, nuclear, space, and AI, will emerge. Before I close, allow me to emphasize Korean companies' role and their need once more. As Korean companies continue to explore opportunities in India, consistent and predictable policy support will play an important role in encouraging greater industry participation. Indian government initiatives such as the Shipbuilding Financial Assistance Scheme to strengthen domestic capacity and attract greater investment into the sector are very timely and useful. We hope that Korean companies who have stepped forward as the first sincere, committed partner to India's Amrit Kaal will continue to receive and enjoy strong support from our Indian partners. I hope today's forum will provide a valuable opportunity to exchange ideas and stimulate frank conversations. Once again, I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers and the participants. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Ambassador Seong-ho, for that warm message of congratulations. Next, we are honored to have Director Bhuvnesh Pratap Singh of DPIIT to deliver the second congratulatory remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bhuvnesh Pratap Singh with a warm round of applause.
His Excellency Seong-ho Lee, Ambassador, Embassy of Republic of Korea to India, Dr. Siwook Lee, President KIEP, all the dignitaries who are present here. First of all, I thank KIEP for calling me again. Although this is your fourth program, but I am attending it for the second time. Last year also I attended, and it's a great forum. Just now Ambassador Sir said what India is going to do, how India-Korea partnership can strengthen our efforts. We are all aware that India is poised to be developed nation by 2047. And by developed nation, I mean, presently I am 4 trillion. I aim to be 30 trillion by 2047. That means in next 22 years, we'll be growing approximately 8 to 9 times. So now this is the time of India, which I think all of us have agreed, and we have taken huge measures to ensure that from the side of Government of India, we do so much work that this target of 30 trillion economy by 2047 is achieved. So before going further, I'll show you a video of ease of doing business, how we have eased various business reforms across the country. In fact, I got 2 videos for you all. Another video is on FDI. So kindly play the video and just see if that video is downloaded. Just please watch this video.
India's efforts to improve the business environment started in the 1990s, but since 2014, under the decisive leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, there has been a focused, mission-mode drive to accelerate ease of doing business.
हमारे युवा अपनी मनचाही कंपनी आसानी से खोल पाए, वो अपने एंटरप्राइज आसानी से बन पाए, उन्हें आसानी से चला पाए, इस ओर जोर दिया गया है। कंप्लायंसेस को कम करके कानूनों को समाप्त करके कंपनीज एक्ट के अनेक प्रावधानों को डीक्रिमिनलाइज करके हमने सुनिश्चित किया है कि भारत की कंपनियां न सिर्फ आगे बढ़े बल्कि नई ऊंचाई को प्राप्त करें।
This has led to significant achievements, including a 79 rank improvement in the World Bank's Doing Business report from 2014 to 2019. Key reforms like the introduction of GST, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and the establishment of commercial courts have further strengthened India's business landscape. The focus now shifts from large-scale reforms to implementing process reforms that truly enhance investor experience. In 2020, the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, launched the Reducing Compliance Burden exercise. This comprehensive effort, involving all central ministries, departments, states, union territories and industry associations, created a centralized online repository. The Regulatory Compliance Portal, RCP, was developed as a single platform to monitor and update activities related to burdensome compliances. The RCP initiative has been transformative. Over 52,000 compliances were identified across India, with more than 42,000 already reduced. This reduction is achieved on the basis of 4 pillars: simplification of procedures, approvals, rules; elimination of redundant laws or processes; digitization of approvals or procedures or inspections; decriminalization of minor, technical or procedural defaults. A key focus has been decriminalizing minor offences to boost investments. The Jan Vishwas Act 2023 reduced several criminal consequences of minor, technical and procedural defaults, easing the burden on the justice system and prioritizing serious offences. The success of RCB lays the groundwork for ongoing regulatory reforms. RCB brings a critical benefit to states. Act-wise detailed analysis of reduced compliances has been undertaken for comparing the progress across all states and union territories. Given the complex regulatory system in India, identification of provisions for removal, rationalization and decriminalization becomes easier through cross-learning. Further, Government of India is already working on Jan Vishwas 2.0. Building upon the Jan Vishwas Act 2023, India is entering a new era of ease of doing business. With DPIIT as a nodal department, continuous efforts to simplify regulations will bolster India's journey toward becoming a global business leader.
So thank you for patiently watching. I'm sure you would have got to know that from the side of Government of India, we have done all sorts of reform as of now. In fact, last year when I attended this session, I requested the convener that time also that as a Korean company, if you feel that there are certain acts, certain rules, which you feel needs to be benchmarked as per the best practices across the globe, Government of India is ready to adopt that. So, although I did not get any data from your side, my request to all of you again is, if you feel for your business there is any rule, any regulation, any law which is impediment, or which you feel that in some other country the procedure is easy, kindly inform us. We will ensure, we will see whether we are able to do it in India, and very fast we will in fact adopt it. You would have listened to our Honorable Prime Minister's speech in this Republic Day, wherein he told about Reform Express. By Reform Express, Honorable Prime Minister meant that we have taken all the reforms on our head, and whatever is needed for opening a business in India, we will do it. That is the commitment which we have got from our Prime Minister, and I can assure all of you that in Government of India, we are really working 24/7. And I'm not bragging, rather I am saying all our officers are working 24/7 to ensure that everyone comes. Now for all those Korean companies who are here, last year I attended many of the meetings with your CEOs also. My only request to you is that still Korea is not the toppest FDI contributor to India. You are still lagging. So somewhere you need to introspect, like what is happening, what is the problem, and why are you not investing the way other countries are investing? Because having seen the FDI desk and ease of doing business desk, I realized that there is huge traction across the globe to invest in India. So this is basically a competition in globe how you can come and invest in India. We also believe that we don't want you only to invest, rather we want you to invest, grow in India and grow with India, because we'll be growing 10 times what we are today. So we are welcoming you to grow 10 times, and in fact many of your companies which are already there, I can name them also, their CAGR is more than 8%. Few of the companies have already earned more than twice the amount which they have already invested. One more important data which I just want to tell all of you, that as far as FDI is concerned, the reinvested earning, the earning which a company is doing here, they are not sending back to their country, rather they are reinvesting in India, because they know our market is huge, we have huge population, we have aspirational population, and for Korea, I already met Korean Cultural Center people. They informed me the huge traction which people of India is showing towards them. K-pop is already hit in India, so you can use it. In fact, last year we had the program of Korean Indian India fusion dance, which we did in Bharat Mandapam. Many things we are doing apart from business on cultural aspect. Now directly coming, if you can take my presentation, directly coming to the point as far as ports is concerned, I just want to say that in India, what we are producing right now is only 3% of our requirement. Rest 97% we are importing. Director Ports will inform you many more things. But from the side of DPIT, I just want to tell all of you, both Indian partners and Korean partners, that wherever you feel that ease of doing business is needed, we are ready to help. From land, take next slide. I'll just go through the slide which we have prepared. So this is the latest budget, and the topic of port, it is very contextual, which the Korean counterparts have taken. Just see what our budget announcement talks about as far as port is concerned. A revamp of shipbuilding financial assistance policy to improve project viability and narrow cost disadvantage faced by Indian shipbuilders. By Indian shipbuilders, we are not restricting only to Indian investors, but we mean those who are working in India. We are also coming out with many incentive schemes. We are also coming out with the land scheme. You are all aware that we have NICDCs, land parcel, wherever you want, we are offering land, and soon we are hopeful. Even in this budget, we have announced revamping of 200 clusters. So many things are going simultaneously, and as far as this shipbuilding and ports is concerned, this was the line from the budget speech, and I'm sure all of you will understand the importance of this line which our finance minister gave. And just read this word, 25,000. We have also announced a budget of rupees 25,000 crore for Maritime Development Fund. So apart from your fund, we are also contributing. Government of India is also contributing. So I must say, all those who are investors, those who are from banks, those who are from venture capitalists, those who want to invest from the pension fund or welfare fund, this is the right time to come to India. And before you are too late, please invest in India, and all of you are welcome. Make in India, made for world, grow in India, grow with India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Bhuvnesh Pratap Singh, for the great speech and discussion. Now we will now take a photo. We will now take a photo. So I kindly request the named guests and speakers come forward to the stage to take a photo. Now it is my honor to introduce Mr. Vipul Singhal, Director of Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. He is going to talk about Shipbuilding India as a keynote speaker. Please welcome Mr. Vipul Singhal with a big round of applause.
His Excellency Ambassador Lee, Government of South Korea to India, Dr. Lee, President KI-FEIF, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank for KIEP to invite Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways to present the government's perspective on shipbuilding in this forum. So I have a small presentation where I'll be presenting the government's outlook on the shipbuilding sector. So I'll request, I think the presentation is already on. So I'll start with the government's long-term vision on the shipbuilding sector. So you can see that currently India is ranked 16th in the world in terms of global shipbuilding rank. We have a very ambitious plan of attaining top 10 position by 2030 and top 5 position by 2047. This is actually a very ambitious plan. It's not merely a jump of, let's say, 10 ranks up the ladder or maybe 5 ranks up the ladder. If you look into the actual output, it entails a jump of maybe 15 times in the next 5 years and up to 100 times in the next 23 years up to 2047. The reason for such a disproportionate output is basically the shipbuilding industry being very concentrated. If you look at the top 3 countries, which is primarily China, Korea, and Japan, together these 3 contribute to more than 95% of the global shipbuilding output. Although India is ranked 16th, but we are doing much less than 1%. We are actually doing close to 0.06% of the global commercial shipbuilding. So this requires a lot of effort from the government side, and because India has a very good demographic dividend, and because the shipbuilding industry by its very nature is very labor intensive, so this kind of helps us to leverage our demographic dividend to make sure that we ensure the fostering of shipbuilding in India. So to be able to achieve our vision and our goal of attaining top 5 positions by 2047, Government of India recently has approved a comprehensive package for shipbuilding. So it includes a $8 billion support for the entire industry. This is going to create a massive 3 million employment opportunities, both direct and indirect, for the overall sector. And it is going to promote an overall investment of more than $50 billion. So we have essentially undertaken a 4-pillar approach, wherein this first 3 pillars are in the form of the scheme support, which have been brought out by the Government of India. They were approved on 24th September 2025, and they are already operational. We have already started applications to be received for getting funding support under these various schemes. I'll be covering them in the detail in the next slides. And more importantly, we also have a pillar 4, where we also talk about the policy, legal and other reforms that the director from DPIT was also mentioning, which essentially foster the ease of doing business, and they also kind of cater to the demand side of the problem, which is required to be able to support the shipyards by giving a long-term visibility of orders. So this is in brief about the pillar 1, which is basically the shipbuilding financial assistance scheme. So it's a $2.5 billion package, wherein we provide shipbuilding assistance from 15 to 25% for every vessel that is constructed in the Indian shipyards. And when I say Indian shipyards, as told by Director DPIT also, it includes the Indian-owned shipyards and the foreign-owned shipyards also, which are all located in the territory of India. The focus is on large green and specialized vessels, with the green in the specialized vessels getting the higher percentage of 25%, and the smaller vessels, they essentially get a lesser percentage of 15%. There is also a provision of a ship-breaking credit note, which is basically an instrument which is given to any ship which is recycled in India in a facility that is Hong Kong compliant. So against a ship recycling credit note, if you're going to an Indian shipyard, if you're going to place an order, you get an additional 5% discount on the ship value for the vessel which is going to be built in the Indian shipyard. Then very importantly, this policy is for 10 years, which is generally not the case. Normally the government schemes are for a period of normally 5 years, which coincide with the finance commission cycle. But here, considering the long gestation nature of the industry per se, the government support is for 10 years, and there is also an in-principle approval by the government up to 2047, which showcases the kind of commitment that the Government of India wants to have for the shipbuilding industry. And lastly, all the orders which are going to be approved by March 2036 their liabilities are going to be carried forward for the next 6 years, because typically the shipbuilding, depending upon the number of vessels which are being constructed, from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years can also be taken. So therefore, the support will be carried forward for the next 6 years. The cumulative worth of the shipbuilding that we are envisaging as part of this scheme is roughly $10 billion. Next, we have the Maritime Development Fund. So this is essentially a $2.5 billion corpus, which is going to be distributed into two funds. One is the Maritime Equity Investment Fund of roughly $2 billion in size. So this is a blended finance approach wherein the government of India is going to bring in 49% of the total corpus, and the rest of the money can be contributed by the private sector. Herein, there will be a differential kind of a return where the government of India is going to take a very small percentage of the return. The market-oriented return is going to come to the private investors. So it provides a great opportunity for the private investors to have their investments. And it will also be supporting the maritime industry, because normally the maritime sector projects are of long gestation period, and typically they require the kind of support that is required is presently not prevalent in India. So this will be very helpful in that particular way. Then we also have an interest incentivization fund. This is a $0.5 billion fund. So it will provide support for the loans which are being taken by the shipyards for their expansion. So there'll be an interest subvention of 3% on the loans that they take from the Indian financial institutions. This is going to help them by lowering their cost. It'll be applicable both for their expansion as well as for the working capital requirement. Next, we have the Shipbuilding Development Scheme. Perhaps this is the most key component of our comprehensive package. So this is the main component that is going to help us in achieving the target of 4.5 million GT by 2047. So first of all, it will help us in setting up of the greenfield shipbuilding clusters. So when we, so basically therein we'll be supporting in way of promoting the greenfield shipbuilding cluster as an industrial park, wherein all the common maritime infrastructure and the common land-based infrastructure is going to be developed by the Government of India's support, and only the per se investment for the facility of the shipyard or maybe the ancillary industry that is going to be brought in by the investor. I'll be covering that in the future slide, in the next slide in more detail. Next, we have the brownfield capacity expansion. So we are trying to cater to the requirement of the existing shipyards also, and we'll be helping them by 25% capital support in whatever expansion projects that they are undertaking. Then we'll be also supporting the capacity and capability development. Along with there is also an element of helping the shipyards by providing credit risk covers. So normally there is a requirement whenever a ship is being built to hedge for any kind of a buyer's risk, so that in case of there is a sudden cancellation of order from the ship owners, so in that case the shipyards would be insulated. So I'll come to the fourth pillar. So the fourth pillar basically is policy reforms. One of the key reforms that we have already undertaken is the grant of the infrastructure status to the large ships. So this was already approved by the Government of India in September 2025. So this will help in lowering the cost of long-term financing for the shipping and the shipbuilding industry. Then we have this domestic fleet acquisition plan. So this is the demand side that I initially touched upon. So this is wherein there has been a lot of effort which has been done by the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. We have tried to work together with all the other ministries. We have tried to club this 400 plus vessels, which cumulatively work out to be around $25 billion. So this is going to provide a long-term visibility to the Indian shipbuilding sector, and this will help them to not just keep their order books robust, but this will also help them in firming up their plans for future expansions. So this particular plan was launched by Honorable Prime Minister during the India Maritime Week in October last year. So these are the details. So this is cumulative 400 plus vessels. This is the total value. We brought in the oil and gas PSUs, which are the primary cargo owners, which bring in a lot of cargo due to their import requirements. We have a container fleet plan. We have Shipping Corporation of India, which is one of the key shipping private public sector entities in India. So we have its expansion plan. We also have major ports who are going to place their orders for green transition tugs. And then we also have DCI, which is the Dredging Corporation of India. It is also going for undertaking its fleet expansion. So cumulatively, it is more than 400 vessels. The last bit is also important. We've already started to take action on this. We have targeted to tender 62 vessels out of this total demand in this particular year, calendar year. And out of this 62, we have already issued tenders or EUIs for 28 vessels. So this is the future opportunities. I think Ambassador was also mentioning regarding the creation of Ulsan. So this is our vision when we talk about the shipbuilding cluster. So this is a typical Ulsan-based approach where you have a shipyard, you have a ancillary unit, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers located next to it. We also have other manufacturers like say block fabrication unit which are also located nearby. And then you have the common cluster facilities in terms of R&D, design houses, you have the testing facilities. All those things are available in the common vicinity. So this basically creates a more synergy kind of an environment and it allows the overall cluster to foster. So what are the benefits of the Greenfield cluster? So first of all, the most important thing is that it is going to be a collaborative effort of central and the state government. So synergies of both the government is going to come in. The common maritime assets are going to be supported by the central government to the worth of roughly $350 million. No land acquisition is required. Land is going to be acquired by the state government. It will be given to the special purpose vehicle which is going to be created for this particular purpose. Typically, the land will be available to the tune of 1,000 acres to the shipyard, anchor shipyard which is going to come in. This will be over and above the additional maybe around 1,000 acres of land additionally that will be available for the ancillary industries. Then it is certainly going to lead to the economies of scale. There is going to be additional benefit from the state governments in the form of their state industrial or the maritime incentives, which could be up to 20 to 25% of the capex cost. And all the necessary approvals that are required will also be fast-tracked, and a lot of single window clearance are going to be basically facilitated by the state government and the central government. And all the connectivity to the cluster is also going to be ensured. So these are the five states which are working on these clusters, and the locations have also been mentioned. In terms of progress, there is quite a bit of progress. We have already 4 states which have completed their TFRs. Maharashtra is also about to do it, and in the month of April that will be completed. We already have a SPV formation in 2 states, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Both of them have already applied to Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways through the DG Shipping, which is the implementing agency. And shortly we'll be examining and we'll be issuing the approvals for development of clusters in Thoothukudi, down south, and Durg-Rajapatnam, which is in Andhra Pradesh. And in terms of interest, we already have interest keenly shown by HDKSOE to take part in the Tamil Nadu cluster. And further, we are also anticipating interest from the other foreign as well as the Indian shipyards for Tamil Nadu as well as the other clusters. Then we also have the ancillary industry, because right now in the present context, almost 70% of the total components which are required to manufacture ships, they are being imported. But with so much of demand that we are trying to project and trying to catalyze in the country, there is going to be a lot of demand for the ancillary industry. For ensuring long-term economic viability, it will be utmost important that these components are available in India itself and not have to be imported. There is a policy imperative also. We have a 30 to 40% domestic content requirement under the Shipbuilding Financial Assistance Scheme. So that will also ensure that the shipyards are basically willing to place their orders to the domestic ancillary industry. So this provides a lot of good opportunities for the Korean manufacturers, ancillary equipment manufacturers. If my understanding is correct, I think Komiya is already about to open, if not already opened, its first office in India. I think they're looking for Mumbai to open their first office. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for the maritime equipment manufacturers from Korea to come and set up their facilities. Then in terms of policy support, we also have the brownfield capacity expansion that I have already mentioned. 3 applications have already come in, and we are anticipating a total investment of roughly $2.2 billion, which has been indicated by 15 shipyards. And here also there is a lot of opportunity the various shipyards from Korea can tie up with Indian shipyards and they can set their footprint in India and in a collaborative manner. Here also we have an example of this block fabrication facility project in Cochin, where HDKSOE is trying to partner with CSL. They both are working on the feasibility of establishing this $450 million block fabrication facility, which is going to serve Cochin shipyard and which will lead to enhancement of the productivity of the shipyard per se. So I think similar kind of initiatives can be taken by other shipyards who also want to explore India. So these are the benefits which have already started to come in as part of our policy initiatives. So apart from the domestic shipbuilding orders, we have already started to receive these major orders from the foreign countries. From France, we have CMA CGM signing a contract for six container vessels for the tune of $360 million. We have company Stenersen from Norway, which has signed a 6 chemical tanker contract with Swan. And recently we have Neofund from UK, which has signed a contract for 4 bulkers to the tune of $250 million, again with Swan. And we have other countries also. So these, basically, this is all the result of the policies initiative that we have taken so far. Further, as skilling is one of the most challenging aspects, which is also required to be covered as part of the shipbuilding initiative. Here also we are partnering with South Korea, and KOICA is partnering with IMU and Cochin Shipyard to undertake this signature program of upskilling of Indian workforce. This workforce can be targeted to be catering to the demand of both the Korean as well as the Indian shipbuilding industry. And as far as our information is concerned, the government of Korea has already approved it. We are awaiting the details, and maybe in a couple of weeks you will be able to understand that what are the contours of this particular partnership. So I think that is it. I again thank the organizers to present this opportunity, and I'll again say that there is a tremendous potential for South Korea and Indian partnership to take this shipbuilding initiative forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vipul Singhal, for your thought-provoking keynote address. We are now ready to begin session 1 of our forum. Session 1 will try to discuss the current status, future prospect, and policy direction of India's shipbuilding industry. Commodore Sujeet Samaddar of RIS. Please welcome Commodore Sujeet Samaddar with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this morning to share some views on shipbuilding. Okay, this is how I'll cover this presentation. Let's look at we had a look at all this, but we are looking at in 2025, we already had 7,560 vessels in order with about 316 million DWT. The year-on-year increase is at 7%. The shipbuilding market was itself worth about $157 billion in 2025, which will go up to about $230 billion soon. We also saw that bulk carriers took a majority share of this trade. Of the 2,500 vessels which were delivered, China accounted for 55 to 57%, Korea was at 26 to 28%, Japan took 12 to 14%. Most deliveries were concentrated in bulk carriers, container ships, product and crude tankers, as shown on the slide. Interestingly, it is South Korea which leads in high technology vessels, and this is very important for this audience here to see where the synergy can be developed. Vietnam and Philippines, as was shown in this slide earlier, are actually the new players of the market, and they've done tremendously well, having climbed to the 5th and 6th position as far as shipbuilding is concerned, but still at 1% of the share. When you look at the new orders versus deliveries, this is where the opportunity can be captured. You can see this on this slide. The new orders are those pillars that you see, and the deliveries are what you can see in green. So here is the time in 2024 when you actually saw that deliveries began to be quite behind orders, and the reason for this is seen in the next slide. When you look at this, the order book to delivery numbers, when you look at the ratio, the last one is the most important one. You can see that China is at 5.85 in 2025, growing every year. Japan is at 1.12, Korea is 1.17. What this means is that if you order a ship in China today, it will take at least 6 years before they'll get delivered to you. That is the time lag that we have between order book and delivery position, which opens up the opportunity for building ships in other regions. So the global shipbuilding, now this is a busy slide, so we'll not get into it too much, but basically where you see here as far as South Korea is concerned, and that's very important for us to realize, is what next generation gas carriers, particularly ammonia, is going to be the future, and we'll see plenty of technology moving there. LPG, LNG, they're already very good. So that's something that we can leverage. The other characteristics of other shipbuilding nations are shown there. What I would also like to highlight here is that increasingly in South Korea, from the literature that we have today, there are also some great talent there for building advanced technology ships, particularly with propulsion systems, including hydrogen, ammonia, triple fuel, diesel engines. Now, as far as India is concerned, I think that's been mentioned in the previous slide, so I'll not get there. Our aspiration is to go to the top 5 position by 2047, which means we are here. There's a comparative chart of all the countries which are there. So that means we'll have to grow from what is shown there. I don't know whether this slide indicates, but you can see at 2030 we'll be at top 10, bottom right-hand corner, and we have to be top 5 by Amrit Vision 2047, taking over from Philippines, China, Vietnam, and Vietnam. So what does it mean? It means that we'll have to grow at 30% a year to be able to match up to the 10th position. And we'll have to grow by 17.8% a year as far as shipbuilding is concerned to be the 5th position. So these are tall asks, but at the same time, there's tremendous opportunity for the industry here. So let's look at the shipbuilding scenario in India. This is the slide which is already splashed. I don't have to get into it. The challenges faced by Indian shipbuilding industry has been discussed at great length, and many of those solutions have been proposed by the ministry, and both at DPIIT and by the Ministry of Shipping. So there are some very good tailwinds for this program, and we should be able to achieve these targets as we work on it. As far as India's order book and deliveries are concerned, the last slide, last 2 columns are interesting. That whilst the orders were about 168, we could deliver 32 in the public sector. In the private sector, we have orders of 242 and delivered 169 in 2024, a total of about 31,000 tons, and we have to grow to 4.5 million tons a year. So there's plenty of headspace for growth and plenty of opportunity for our partnership to develop to reach these targets. Let's look at the shipbuilding strategy. First and foremost is target the replacement market. When you look at this slide, which captures the total number of ships that we have by year and build period, you will find that the huge amount of opportunity exists for large number of ships which are almost amounting to 6 million tons of about 631 ships. These are already more than 30 years old. They're polluting, they're old technology, they cost a lot of money to operate. So even if you just address these 631 ships over the next 5 years, 3 years, that's adding 6 million tons of shipbuilding in India. The secondly also, we can see from the global statistics, you will find that more than 20-year-old ships, which is shown on the bottom corner, is smaller ships, 50,000 DWPs bulk carriers. They have now grown to 85,000 tons. So you have an understanding that the future is supposed to be going towards larger ships, more efficient engines. So the replacement market will be driven by this demand, as economics of the shipping industry will require efficiencies and economies for the industry. It's a cyclical industry. At the moment, it seems to be doing well, but costs will always be very, very important. The second initiative is to go coastal. In this, when you see, these are some data which is there from the government, and it tells you what is the total amount of cargo traffic projections. Now, taking all these cargo traffic projections, we have now calculated what the total number of ships would be. I've taken these numbers at 50,000 DWT and 8,000 DWT. 8,000 is a number that is okay for us because that can meet most of our minor ports. We need to meet our minor ports. The tonnage, the projected cargo, I'm not sure if there's a pointer here. Anyway, the projected cargo numbers are taken from the government's own projections. And if you see, at the moment, this requires us about 341 bulk carriers of different types are shown there, 191 container carriers, and at least product containers of about 278, a total investment of about 1.5 lakh crores now, just to meet these targets. So the third initiative is to look at the big ship deal, which is on liner shipping. When you do the same calculations, we have 850 million metric tons of cargo in a year, and the distribution of this cargo is shown on the slide. If you just convert that into ship requirements, at the moment we spend $85 billion a year paying freight charges to foreign shipping. Now here, if you just do these numbers, we already need about 630 to 660 ships to carry present day's cargo. If you take this up to a longer time period, up to 2045, it comes out to 1,200 to 1,300 ships. These are large ships. And this is not counting the coastal cargo that we spoke about. So these are all numbers which are there by the government, and I've taken a very sort of conservative number. The intended handling capacity is supposed to go up to 5 billion tons. We are about 850 million tons now, so it is supposed to go to 5 billion tons to meet the aspirations of our vision for being a developed country by 2047. There's one particularly a good example here that I've quoted here on the slide. It's about using containers for trafficking of carriage of cars. So that is something that will develop in, and as more and more car containers come into the market, the ports mechanisms will also change. So, okay, we want to build all these ships. So what kind of ships should we build? So this tells you, that there are different types of ships, but what you can see here in the slide is LNG ships have been going up and down, and they seem to be cornering much of the business. So LNG ships is a particular area to work. But when you look at the overall market, it's container ships and liquefied gas carriers where the thrust is. That's where the business is. They're growing at the fastest rate. And in both these two areas, our Korean friends have got great expertise, and this is something that we can target in. Bulk carriers are sort of at 3%, but this is where the business is. So when you look at the gas carrier, then you also need to know what are the kind of gas that we need to carry. Coal and natural gas demand is going to slide as we move to net zero, but biogas, hydrogen, and carbon capture and utilization systems will improve, and this is where the opportunity is. 500 hydrogen carriers, 300 ammonia carriers to be built. We also need to choose the right fuel. So, we have to move away from diesel. The likely fuel is going to be ammonia or green hydrogen in the future, but presently LNG and ammonia. Shipyards are already building ships using these fuels. Within this whole system is this business of what we spoke about, ancillaries. There are lots of many components which go into making a ship, or 30 to 35% is the hull cost. Steel is a very important cost, accounts for almost 8 to 12% of the cost of a ship. And steel prices in India are high, and we don't really have that sort of steel to be built that requires us for shipbuilding. Then we also need to move to smart shipbuilding. That basically materials must be the right type, design has to be there, which again there's a lot of strength in South Korea on design. The supply chain, here again we cannot have everything built in India. We have to have a supply chain which works on both sides, and here again partnership between South Korea and India can be very useful. Construction technologies include digital twins, additive manufacturing, data analytics, and modular construction. Last is a three-pronged approach. Here we have to be for Atmanirbhar Pot Nirman. We need to have Swadeshi Punji, which is our domestic capital, and we must have Atmanirbhar Vanijya, which is clear of cabotage laws. So we are able to service the debt and loans that shipping companies will take for building ships. And this can only be done through contract affreightments, where a whole of government approach is required, so that the PSUs and all the other ships assure cargoes for the shipping industry. Then we could have a shipbuilding plan, which can have standardized design and specifications, strategic partnership, which is what we are here to discuss today, and we can do that also for ship construction, and a clear build strategy. And that build strategy has to be the good old Liberty class, which is what the US started in World War II with great success, building a ship every 15 days. So targets to achieve 0.3%, that is, I've told you all this. That's the 5 initiatives I've told you. For the build strategy, we need to have hull forms which is stabilized, aggregate demand has to be in place, we have to promote a pipeline production, and have a 15-year national shipbuilding plan. So with this, you have to see what India must do. Firstly, drive domestic demand, which has been discussed today. Secondly, build up the scale. You can't be building, one ship every 3 years. You need to build 3 ships every month at that rate, which will again bring the entire ecosystem going. And that's where partnership with countries like South Korea can be very, very helpful. Anchor technology partnerships and build domestic supply chains. Of course, we must aspire to have 30 to 40% indigenous content, but that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take us some time. And here again, the concept of shipbuilding clusters will be helpful, where not only ships will be built, but all the ancillaries will also be co-located there, particularly for machinery and equipment. And that brings me to the last slide. And thank you very much for your patient hearing. If there are later discussions, we can take that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore Sujeet Samaddar, for your inspiring speech. Next, we will hear from Professor Tanuja Kaushik of Gujarat Maritime University. Please welcome Professor Tanuja Kaushik with a big round of applause.
Good morning, dignitaries and delegates. Today I'll be talking on the topic of role of maritime education and research in building the future of India's shipbuilding. As we all know, shipbuilding has long been recognized as a strategic industry that supports maritime trade, national security, technological development, and economic growth. It is often called the mother industry of heavy engineering because it generates employment, stimulates industrial innovation, and drives growth across multiple sectors. Yet, despite having a coastline of nearly 11,000 kilometers, over 200 ports, and one of the fastest growing maritime economies, India's presence in global shipbuilding remains modest. Today, India accounts for less than 1% of global shipbuilding output and ranks around 16th in the world, far behind leaders such as China, South Korea, and Japan, which together dominate the global market, which was highlighted by Director of Ministry of PSW. Recognizing this gap, Government of India has introduced ambitious initiatives such as Maritime India Vision 2030 and Amrit Kaal Vision 2047. These initiatives aim to position India among top 10 shipbuilding nations by 2030 and top 5 by 2047, which was already highlighted again by Director, Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. However, most of these strategies focus primarily on infrastructure expansion, shipyard modernization, and financial incentives. The role of maritime education, research, and knowledge ecosystem has been received comparatively less attention. And that brings me to my central argument today. If India wants to be leading shipbuilding nation, universities and research institutions must become central drivers of innovation of maritime sector. Let's look at the global shipbuilding knowledge system. We all know China, South Korea, and Japan collectively accounts for the majority of the global shipbuilding, over 95%. When we examine their success, one factor consistently stands out. Their leadership is not based solely on industrial capacity, but on strong knowledge ecosystem that connects university, research institute, and industry. Today, the modern shipbuilding is increasingly technology-driven. We know vessel requires innovation in areas such as AI-based ship design, hydrodynamic optimization, energy-efficient hulls, marine robotics. In other words, shipbuilding today is not only a manufacturing activity, it is a knowledge-intensive industry. In contrast, India's shipbuilding ecosystem remains largely production-oriented, with relatively limited integration of academic research into industrial development. Let's look at the theoretical framework. Being an academician, let's look at the theoretical framework of triple helix model of innovation. The relationship between university, industry, and government can be conceptualized through this triple helix model of innovation developed by Henry and Lloyd. This model highlights the interaction of three institutional actors: university, which generate knowledge and research, industry, which applies and commercializes technology, and government, which create policy framework and incentives. In leading shipbuilding nations, these three actors operate in close collaboration. However, in India, shipbuilding ecosystem, these linkages remain limited, weak. Universities often operate separately from shipyards, and academic expertise is rarely integrated into national maritime policy or industrial innovation ecosystem. We just heard Director of Ministry of PSW, and he was talking about maritime cluster. In that maritime cluster, if you could also add university, the maritime education and research, it would really help the people to grow, the shipbuilding industry to grow more. Let's look at the maritime education in India. India does have several institutions contributing to maritime education. For example, which he already talked about, Indian Maritime University, which provides specialized training in naval architecture, marine engineering, and ocean technology. Similarly, Gujarat Maritime University, where I have the privilege to serve, focuses on maritime law, policy, management, and emerging technology while contributing to the development of human capital for the maritime sector. We also have other institutions like IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur, Cochin University of Science and Technology, which play an important role in naval architecture and ocean engineering education. However, despite these institutional academic contribution to shipbuilding innovation remains relatively limited. So let's look at the key challenges. Several structural challenges explain this gap. First, industry-academic collaboration remains limited. Universities and shipyards rarely collaborate on research, ship design development, or technology testing. Second, maritime research infrastructure remains undeveloped compared to global shipbuilding leaders. As a result, many shipyards continue to depend on foreign technologies and import ship designs. Third, maritime education governance is somewhat fragmented across multiple regulatory authorities like UGC, AICT, Maritime Institute. As a result, its inconsistent curriculum stance and weak integration between education and industrial requirement. And finally, there is a skill gaps. Although India produces a large number of engineers annually, relatively few are trained in specialized areas such as advanced ship design, digital shipbuilding, shipyard automation, marine robotics, green ship technology. Addressing their skill gap will be essential for the future competitiveness of India's shipbuilding industry. Let's look at the policy gap. Despite ambitious maritime vision, India's shipbuilding strategy still has several important policy gaps. First, there is a limited dedicated funding for maritime research and innovation. We have funding, but for maritime education and research in India, it is really lacking. Second, India lacks strong shipbuilding innovation clusters. The Director Ministry and the DPIT did talk about the cluster, but in that cluster, the education and research centers are missing, connecting shipyards, universities, and technology firms. Third, universities are not sufficiently integrated into shipbuilding policies. So finally, incentives for sustained industry academic collaboration remains relatively limited. So let's look at some of the policy recommendations which we can think of as an academician. To strengthen India's shipbuilding sector, several reforms may be considered. First, maritime innovation clusters should be established where universities collaborate with shipyards on research in ship design, digital shipbuilding, and green shipping technologies. The Director Ministry and the DPIT, though they are not there, and I would have been happy if they would have been there, they talked about 4 pillars. But in that 4 pillars, maritime education and research could have been added, maybe a part of innovation, or maybe a 5th pillar could have been added. Second, greater funding for maritime research and development is necessary to support advanced work in naval architecture, marine robotics, and sustainable shipping system. Third, strong industry academic partnerships should be encouraged through joint laboratories, collaboration research programs, and industry-supported innovation centers. Fourth, universities should be more actively integrated into policy making, allowing academic expertise to contribute to evidence-based policy development. And finally, encourage international collaboration. Indian academic institutions should collaborate with global maritime universities to assess advanced research and training programs which will help in technology transfer, joint research project, and maybe faculty exchange program. So to conclude, India's ambition to measure global shipbuilding power cannot rely only on shipyards, infrastructure, or financial incentives. What India needs truly is a knowledge-driven maritime innovation ecosystem. Universities such as Indian Maritime University, Gujarat Maritime University have the potential to play a transformative role in strengthening the country's maritime capabilities. Ultimately, the future of shipbuilding in India will depend on how effective we connect knowledge, industry, and policy. Because in 21st century maritime economy, the most competitive shipbuilding nation will not only build ship, but they will build knowledge. As rightly said by DPIT Director, Make in India, Make for World. Thank you.
We appreciate your valuable contribution and the depths of knowledge you shared. Then I'm honored to introduce next speaker, Captain Sarabjeet Parmar of IRS. Please welcome Captain Sarabjeet Parmar with a big round of applause.
I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, so just bear with me on this. So let me make a statement that India stands at a maritime strategic inflection point with an ambitious naval modernization plan and the growing necessity of a large merchant fleet, which has been amply discussed. India's aspirations to become a leading global maritime power hinge not only on securing its own naval capabilities, but also as emerging as a credible global supplier of ships, both civil and naval. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to present the case of Indian shipbuilding and the case of India to become a warship sellers nation, and how Korea, South Korea, and India together can fulfill the requirements of many nations in the Indo-Pacific. Let me take you down the old battered road of strategic context. So, one is the Indo-Pacific centrality and slot dependence, and if anything that the current ongoing conflict has taught us is that your slot dependence depends on how many flagships you have and how many naval ships you have to escort those flagships, especially where energy is concerned. And South Korea, like India and Japan and other Indo-Pacific nations, require that gas and that oil for their economies to run. So therefore, you need to balance your naval modernization and your merchant fleet expansion. And that, to my mind, is India's maritime power ambition, as is laid down in the many documents that were presented before you. So if the Indo-Pacific is central to global trade, and India's maritime strategy is increasingly tied to sea lane security and naval capability expansion, then we are not looking just at industry, but industrial depth to cater for the requirements not of today, but for tomorrow. And that is somewhere 40, 50 years down the line, and you cannot have a slowing down of production. So my core argument is we need to shift from builder to exporter. We need to develop a domestic capability. Is it necessary? It's necessary, but presently a little bit insufficient as far as merchant marine is concerned, as has been brought out by the earlier speakers. But if you're going to look at exporting naval ships, then you need to step up that production, catering not only for your own national requirement, but also for the requirement of the nations that we would like to engage. So therefore, self-reliance is not enough. We would need to work with other nations. And I will show you a slide how Korea and India can work together. So your exports are the sum total of your economic and strategic leverage, which you can benefit from this relationship. And therefore, the next strategic leap for Indian shipbuilding in the naval context or naval ships is to have an orientation of your export methodology. So therefore your warship exports will then become a part of power projection and economic gain, not only for India, but for all those nations who would be willing to take those naval ships from India. Let me give you a glimpse of what happened last year in the Indian Maritime Week of 2025. So it pivoted India's maritime focus from purely port expansion to deeper related industrial capacity and capability, has been mentioned. The number of MOUs signed, I think, was the greatest number ever since the Maritime Week started, I think, in 2016. Included major deals for indigenous shipbuilding, ship repair clusters, and green ship technologies, which is a start point. The agreements between Indian shipyards and major international partners point to India's aspiration not only to serve its own fleet and requirement, but to export made in India vessels globally. Again, a start point. The aim for India is to be among the top 5 building nations by 2047, which was covered by the initial speakers. This dual approach will accrue several advantages, like creating employment and value addition, while reducing import dependence and enhancing a strategic autonomy in the shipbuilding ecosystem of India and the Indo-Pacific. So what are the current strengths? We have a strong indigenous design and construction capability. I'm referring totally to now naval ships out here. As we speak today, we have around 45 plus warships under construction in Indian shipyards. Last year, we had a frigate that came in from Russia. That is perhaps the last ship we will ever place an order on Russia. And therefore, all other ships thereafter built will be with Indian shipyards. It's a point to be recognized. So what are we looking at? Destroyers, frigates, submarines, aircraft carriers. That is the top rank for naval modernization. So the transition is from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy. And now the next natural step is obviously a seller's navy. So that is what we need to look at. We have milestones such as INS Vikrant, which is the carrier model which is up there. And these milestones demonstrate technological maturity, but not yet export competitiveness, and that we need to look at. But what is the central focus of our capability? And that is the Warship Design Bureau, which, and I'll spend some time on this. It was set up in 1970, and when we went out with the first Nilgiri class ship, which we had built there. And the journey started with small patrol craft and has since expanded to include complex frontline platforms. Godavari class frigates in the 1980s, Delhi class destroyers in the late 1990s, the present class of Shivalik stealth frigates and Kolkata class destroyers. And then of course, now we're looking at nuclear powered submarines. So the option available for Indian shipbuilders and for organizations like shipbuilders from Korea is immense. If Korea can build ships for the US, in the US, why can't we build ships for Indo-Pacific nations in India and South Korea together? It's a point to be thought about. So why does export matter so much? Industrial growth and jobs, technology absorption, and the strategic influence that the middle powers like South Korea and India can actually exert in the Indo-Pacific, and we go by the nomenclature of a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, the buzzword being inclusive. So shipbuilding has multiplying effects across heavy industry and defense diplomacy, and that's something we can do together. But there are certain gaps. They've been pointed out, but I just mentioned 3. One is a weak financing ecosystem, which needs to be developed further. Fragmented supply chains, which need to be developed, and of course, the strong global competition. I do acknowledge the fact that by merely saying that we will export naval ships, there are certain red flags that will go up over shipbuilding industries in Indo-Pacific, South Korea included, but the idea is to work together. So what are the target export regions we can look at? Southeast Asia, island nations of the Indo-Indian Ocean region, and of course Africa and the Gulf. The value proposition is that we can give these nations affordable alternatives to the costly ships which I had mentioned earlier. So we start from small patrol crafts and we go up to anti-submarine warfare corvettes, which we have built in India and designed, which account for 80% indigenous content. You can't get it better than that. And given the number of submarines that are in this area, obviously, um, ASW frigates or corvettes would be in high demand. 5-pillar roadmap, I'll just take 2 minutes more. And I can take on the details of this later. 5-pillar roadmap, we need a demand-led policy and life cycle support. If we offer a ship, we must give it a package deal that we will look after maintenance and upfit and outkeep of the ships we sell to you, clustered production ecosystems, deep financing instruments, capability building, that's design and R&D, export strategy and partnerships. So how do India and South Korea cooperate? So let me go back in history. We started off in 1989 to 91 when we took 3 offshore patrol vessels from South Korea. Since then, we've had a sort of a relationship, but it's never fructified. South Korea has often bid for mine countermeasure vessels. It's also bid for fleet support ships. But my understanding is the biggest problem has been the issue of transfer of technology and cost. These are 2 hurdles, I think, sitting on the table. India and South Korean shipbuilders can actually sort out. The proof on the pudding is the recent MOU between Hyundai Heavy and Cochin Shipyard Limited to look at amphibious ships for the Indian Navy. My last slide is, so therefore there's a strategic imperative in India and South Korea working together. We need to give the nations of the Indo-Pacific what they want. For India, we must align capacity, financing, efficiency, convert advantages into export competitiveness, and therefore shipbuilding in sum total, defense plus economics plus the geopolitical lever it will give in the Indo-Pacific. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your excellent and comprehensive presentation. Then it is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Piyali Das of National Center of Excellence on Green Port and Shipping. Please welcome Dr. Piyali Das with a big round of applause.
A very good morning to dignitaries, my seniors and my friends. So first of all, I feel deeply grateful for this opportunity to present our viewpoints in this subject. So I represent TERI as well as the National Center of Excellence in Green Port and Shipping, which is been set up by Ministry of Port and Port Shipping and Waterways, and 3 other major ports and Cochin Shipyard Limited also has funded in setting up this center. So we are working almost, you can say it is the policy wing of the ministry. So we are working almost all aspects of the green shipping, green port and in this area. So I'll be talking mostly about the green fuel part and how we just completed one of the project where we have seen that how the trends are, especially for the alternative fuel adoption in marine vessels, and in the background of this MEPC 83 where this framework has been built for where it has been taken that GFI, that is GHG fuel intensity, it become very, very important for decarbonizing the shipping sector, especially for the ships more than 5,000 GT, that is the basically the ships in the international water. So we have done an in-depth study that what are those fuels or the fuel mix which works best for India to comply this GFI based MEPC 83, this net zero framework. So from that we have done almost a 1.5 year studies, and we have also scanned all the development all over the world. Based on that, we have recommended the ministry, and there are large scope. I can we can see where there is the collaboration opportunities between the Korea and India. So just moving little on. So I just this is I was talking about. So we can share a soft copy or if hard copy is needed. So we have just launched this study, which is been accepted as an advanced green fuel for maritime application, part A. So part B now we are doing with DG Shipping for implementation of this fuel mix, what we have fuel and fuel mix, which we have recommended for different sizes and types of ships, which includes also the coastal ships. But today I'll be presenting mainly the international water, that ships, because there the compliance is most important. We also have launched DG Shipping, and you are here today. So we have also launched this draft National Green Shipping Policy in January. In that, I just have kept it for just to share this important document, that there are 7 major pillars based on which this National Green Shipping Policy has been developed, and we are still taking stakeholders' responses and comments to finalize this National Green Shipping Policy. So it is going to be a very important document for decarbonizing Indian shipping. So in that, just I want to just share that green shipping, green technology, green ports, green ship recycling, green finance, green fuels, and green skill development. So almost all these aspects are the major pillars in this green shipping policy. I'll be talking more on this pillar of green fuels. So in this project, what we have seen that in the backdrop of this MBPC 83, this this GFI based network. So since there is the kind of penalty now the ships globally has to pay if we don't go to that low GFI based fuels. So then we wanted to know with respect to the kind of resources we are having, because it is very important that the fuel supply chain and all other aspects are very important, that how India is ready for adoption or towards 2035. So we have generally, when we see the importance of a fuel, we generally go by what is the fuel supply chain. But in our study, what we have taken, that 7 to 8 sustainability parameters we felt are very important. Maybe some feedstocks is not there in our country, but as per those net zero framework, if we have to adapt some of the fuels, so what about the other sustainability parameters? So we have ranked the fuels and fuel mix. We have taken almost all possible alternative fuels which can go for this coastal and the international vessels. So with respect to these 8 sustainability parameters. So these are just 1 or 2 points I want to highlight. Definitely feedstock supply chain is important. With respect to GFI, so what is the well to wake LCA coming for this fuel if we adopt that? Then what is the bunkering infrastructure? Because all these fuels are some are very difficult fuels with respect to their storage, bunkering, their transport, and they are very new. They need a completely different kind of safety protocols, and some of those are not still published by IMO. These are all interim. So how it looked like, and then to use some of these alternate fuels, we need alternate engines or the fuel cells. So how the trajectory looks like. So with respect to these 8 parameters, sustainability parameters, we have ranked the fuels, and then we have come out with the recommendation that which India should take. So in that we have 2 scenarios we have built. One is the scenario where we are going for retrofitting or the new build, where these alternate fuels, the percentage we want to adopt in the commercial vessels, or the coastal vessels. Coastal vessel is not under compliance, but in future it might be in that GT range. So what is we have quantified what is the different kind of alternative fuels needed for compliance of MBPC 83, that network. In case, as it was presented even in the morning, that as we know that most of the Indian vessels, many of the Indian international water vessels are foreign flags, and many of the vessels are very old vessels. So does it really mean sensible to retrofit those old vessels in case of both coastal and international water? Or what are the option out if we really want to comply? So we have found out that blend fuel strategy, where the engine don't need to be changed, that could be one of the options, but not all the fuels are applicable for that. So with respect to that, we have made this study, very extensive study, and these are the major outcome of our study. I want to go to the outcome rather than this. So basically we have done a very comprehensive overview of all alternative fuels. And then second, I have already just mentioned, and we have identified the best option to comply with the GFI based targets as suggested in MBPC 83. And what is the fuel demand, blend fuel demand there with respect to this GFI targets, how the cost implications are there. in adoption of that. So all these things and what are the policy gaps globally and in India. So that we have so now I will just move little faster. So as we know, this is the status of this adoption of this net zero framework. So it is little bit deferred by a year. So we are looking for April 2026. What happened? So this is what is the focus at this MEPC. So definitely when I'm talking about the fuel, so that's what I have kept this, that sustainable fuel certification, then who will get the reward. Basically that discussion is not still finalized, that what are those fuels where that like ZLZ, like zero or net zero will be eligible for the rewards. So what will be the criteria for getting rewards, and governing positions and GFI registry and all this are going to be discussed in this April 2026. So now I move to the global, I have only identified the South Korea here and India. So this is the global vessel ownership as of 2000, because this is from the data we have analyzed based on the 2024 Clarkson data. More than 0.15 million data we have analyzed. And so India and South Korea is almost in the similar kind of level of having the ownership of the vessel ownership. So then if we see the alternative fuels, as I said, the GFI become very important. So GFI become very important. So we scanned that what is the status of alternative fuel adoption in the international water vessels. So this is the figure which again shows that still LNG is heading among the alternative fuels, but 2028 onwards, now it can be 2029 as it get adopted, that net zero framework. But still LNG will be substantial figure, and that is the rank of the other fuels adoption. So if we look very interestingly, we looked at the total number among the alternative fuels, the percentage adoption with respect to the order book as well as in service. So we see that, and also we have bifurcated, which is the hydrogen-derived fuel, especially the methanol, hydrogen, ammonia. So we have put only a crux of this, the whole the study, that report, more details are available. So we can see that with respect to the in-service, only if we consider the hydrogen-derived fuels like methanol, hydrogen, and ammonia, the figure is, I don't know if it is showing that light. So figure is methanol is around 62% among that hydrogen-derived fuels adoption. But if we see at the order book by 2032, this order book, so it is almost from 62 to 85% it is jumping. So it can clearly show that methanol is really a front runner with respect to the adoption of the alternative fuels, hydrogen-derived. Hydrogen is from 33 to it is coming to 8%. So it is more going towards the inland water, not the bigger ships. And the ammonia is from 3 to 7, the mild, slightly it is, but still we can deny the LNG, and that's what we have come out the recommendation that we can't do away with the LNG. So what could be the opportunities like e-LNG and bio-LNG, because India has a very big national mission on Satat plants for making biogas from the biogenic methane. So those can be linked, and in a from the long-term perspective that also can be looked at. I'll just move very fast. So this is the distribution of these alternative fuel vessels with respect to their size, so because that can give a very good idea that which are the size where this, which kind of fuel is actually transitioning. This was very interesting. I have only put the crux of the study, but we have done in depth. So we wanted to understand overall this, if these 7 and 8 are the alternative fuels. So in that, who are the world leaders in at this moment, that with respect to the engine makers, alternative engine makers. Also we have done the fuel cell that I am not presenting here. What the country led with respect to this IC engine vessel ownership, not necessarily who are the leading that making and they are not the leader, and the country lead in shipbuilding. So we can found South Korea, even I was very interested to see that in almost all kinds of fuels, quite substantial contribution you are making. So it is really very impressive. So all kind of fuels, so who are the major contributors and major players that we have highlighted in with respect to all kind of these alternate fuel engines. So I can skip this one. I can only go directly here. So this is very flexible. So this does not mean that we have finalized this is the fuel ranking with respect to Indian adoption for alternative fuels to comply with the GFI. This is very flexible because you can see that I have taken the, because GFI is the main parameter here, I have taken the GFI values and which can, with respect to the research innovation, the GFI, like I gave an example, the biomethanol GFI 9.4 is already available commercially. But if we make a biomethanol process where GFI can go lower, so it can have a different kind of scoring. So this is a very flexible, and when we have given the ranking, that is the total score, we have taken all 8 sustainability parameters. So just to give an example, like fossil methanol, so it is available in a low cost and all, but when we see the other parameters, sustainability parameters, it is doing very poorly. So with respect to 8 sustainability parameters, which is the best fuel, that's the way we have ranked, so that we can never go wrong. So this is with respect to this, when this net zero framework will be applied globally. So with respect to that, how this is to encourage the fuel scaling up, fuel technology suppliers, that today they can feel that we can go as usual, but the moment this GHG cost will be added, yes, just GHG cost will be added, how it looks like 2028 to 2035, how this, with the GHG cost added, the many of these alternate fuels will be cost-wise at par or below the even the fossil fuels. So we have done same for the blended fuels also. So this shows a lot of potential. So I'm moving very fast. This is the opportunities for the Indian vessels, which is very old and where the engine don't need to be changed. So these are some of the options of the blend fuels where we can still comply with the GFI values at that target, but not changing the engines. And this is basically for the alternate engine when we are retrofitting or new build. So this is, we have given, this is the, basically the priority should be given this way the fuel. So I'm just leaving it with this because there's no much time. And I have some of my thought I have kept here for possible collaborations. And this is based on that 7 pillars of this green fuel policy. So we have given importance to 3 to 4 pillars with respect to India and Korea collaboration. With this, I'll leave. And
Thank you very much for the wonderful speeches and discussion. Now we will now move on to our panel discussion for session 1, moderated by Director Jongseo of KIEP Delhi office. The panel include on-site presenters of session 1 with Director Ravi Kumar Mokha of Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways as a special guest. They will try to discuss India's shipbuilding industry in terms of comprehensive view.
Thank you. To use the time efficiently, I'm starting here first. Frankly speaking, thank you again for coming, joining our forum. And frankly speaking, in India, the time management is very, very difficult. Very sorry, but just before I decided to have the session, although even if we already passed the times, but if I go, if I stop, maybe I think we will have lunch over the 2 p.m. So please understand me. And even please, all of the first session speakers, please come join. And Mr. Mokha also. And also, even the time constraint, I would like to say thank you, especially the speakers from the Indian government, especially the Ministry of the Ports and Ships and Waterway, and the Ministry of the Commerce and Industry, KIPPT. As you know very well, at this moment, is very urgent issues in the Hormuz Strait. The tension is very high, and all of the countries are very the crucial time to monitoring and responding the traffic in Hormuz Strait. And even in India, at this moment, as far as I know, in the Plymouth, the budget session is already started.
So okay, we will start the session, the panel discussions very efficiently. If I give you long questions, please give me very shortly and efficiently. I think we already know that he is the wonderful expert in the India shipbuilding and maritime economy. So, and they know very well the India huge visions, the maritime or shipbuilding 2023, and even including 2045. I also reviewed, but my first question is very huge, the vision. So, but I think it's not easy to meet the aim of the vision. So you have each the sector specialized. So what kind of the obstacles? Otherwise, what is the most essential prerequisite to meet the huge vision of in shipbuilding or including the maritime in India? It is my first questions, one by one. Okay. Who is the first start? Oh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good morning to all. So the main constraint or for the shipbuilding here will be the skilling. So if now the government has come with a huge vision of this, almost they have infused about $8 billion. That director has already told us. But we have got the finance. Previously, we didn't have the financing mechanism, but through Maritime Development Fund, the financing mechanism already in place through equity investments. And then the shipyards are able to get through for the output through SBFAS. And also for the infrastructure development through SC Shipbuilding Development Scheme, there's almost $2.2 billion that also they're able to get. But so the financing is in place, but with financing it is not sufficient. We should have the complete skilling part also, because of the facilities coming here. Because right now we are producing about only 60,000 ton a year actually here. But we are expecting to move almost 4 million deadweight by almost 2047. So to meet this, we need the required set of skills by in terms of ship design, in terms of the skilled labor, in the shipyard, skilled labor for welding, fabrication, and outfitting and all. So that is the main thing which is required. And also the infrastructure is the main thing which is lacking here. So infrastructure we need to build with all the industry with foreign collaboration. Like especially now Korea has come up with the Greenfield cluster. So we are thinking of about 2.6. Our target is 4 million GT. So, but Korean itself, they are saying 2.5 million GT in one cluster. And if we could establish in another Durgarajapatnam or in Gujarat, some other cluster, so we'll be meeting the target. But there is a lot of challenges here actually, mainly on the infrastructure, skilling, and because again the private shipyards are there. We have many shipyards, but their capacity is very little actually. Only there are 8 shipyards in India which can produce more than 20,000 deadweight. Although we have got 60 shipyards, only 8 can produce. The rest are really small shipyards. Right now they are coming because we have got the brownfield shipbuilding development scheme. There they are coming and then they are applying. I think in hope by another 10 years that infrastructure will be there. And you can see in 2003 to 2012, we were at top 10. We are producing and we're in the number top 10. We are producing more than 200, close to 2,000 deadweight actually. But after that, due to no policy support from the government and also due to the global decline in the shipbuilding demand, so this came down. So we have got the capability in India. But only thing is we could not produce because of the infrastructure and the financing support, which was not there. But from last 10 years, we have been producing. So we will go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have to change my mind because if I give you one by one, I cannot control the time. So I think I give you a special, the questions one by one is better for me. And also you cover the comprehensive kind of bottleneck, but I would like to give you one question related to the kind of human development in the shipbuilding or maritime sector. So you covered the kind of how many universities they have the naval architectures
department in India. So I surprised. In Korea also, as far as I know, the 20 universities are running the naval architecture or the ocean engineering department, but it's surprised. But my question is, in your the vision, the report, it's very wonderful. So they compare the kind of the cost to the Korea and Japan, even including the Japan. So one thing is I found in case of India, the labor cost is very low, but the productivity is very low. So you already said to me, infrastructures and anything, the finance is so important issues. But I think it is possible at this moment in their situations. But I think it is very difficult, I think. So what do you think about these issues? How developed Indian labor, the productivity in shipbuilding, including the maritime sectors? I think you are the expertise.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll keep it really short. I was talking about triple helix model. So it is important that if we want to really be number 5 by 2047, we need to have a collaboration. When I say collaboration, it is not just industry and government. The university, the education centers, research centers needs to also collaborate. And I'm happy to say that we are taking a step forward. We have a collaboration with the DG Shipping. We also have a collaboration with other universities. So I think by having a collaboration, we can do something. As you were saying, in South Korea also there are many universities like Korean Maritime universities. You have Busan, where they work on innovation, not just on productivity, but also on design part, because it is today when we talk about national education policy says we should need to have an interdisciplinary approach. So you just can't work on infrastructure or productivity, you need to also combine other sectors also to have to be number 5 by 2047.
Thank you. And also, especially, we have the retired Navy persons, Mr. Commander or Captain also. And I would like to give you, both to you, you already covered kind of the huge naval ship potential in India. But you also, and yesterday you also discussed something. So, last 10 years back, we, Korea and India, have deeply discussed related to building you already mentioned, the minesweepers, and including the sport ship vessels, and also commercial sector. Kaal also asked 10 oil tank, but all of the project is not realized. So I would like to know why there is a kind of we have learned the lessons from the first wave. So what is the main issues? What is the main obstacles to make the project in that time? What do you think about that in that times?
Okay, very quickly. First, unlike other products, ships are always made to order. Nobody makes a ship and keeps it there and looks for a customer. So you have to first find the customer and then only you build the ship. That's the first point. To do that, there has to be a demand and the customer has to have faith that the ship that they want will be delivered on time, quality and price. That is the first point. So for commercial shipbuilding, today companies are booking shipyard capacity, not so much as shipyard ships. That is the difference between booking shipyard capacity and building ships. On the naval shipbuilding side, I'll leave it to Captain Parmar to speak about, but broadly, I think he already mentioned it, but these are still ships that are needed in India, minesweepers. We have a new RFI, which has been issued for 12 minesweepers for about, I think, $3 billion roughly. So let us hope Korean companies participate in it.
So I'd mentioned two main issues. One was the issue of transfer of technology, and the other issue was the cost part. Now, if you remember, the first example I gave was 89-91. We got 3 offshore patrol vessels built in South Korea, and we sailed them to India. The balance 3 of the total 6 were built in India. So it's not that we've not had a transfer of technology or an understanding. But I think somewhere down the line, when India insisted upon more transfer of technology, and I can fully understand that even the US does not share its technology with the best of its allies. So the question that arose and is unanswered is that was there a certain pressure from the US side to limit the transfer of technology? Because we're talking about the time when we're still in the Cold War period, and the trust factor was not that strong. So perhaps the transfer of technology and therefore the cost imperatives, they sort of came down. And then of course is the question of which shipyard. And therefore then finally it comes down to shipyard. It is possible that the shipyards did not have the required capacity and capability to develop based on the technology in those days. So therefore there was a limitation. But that's my assumption. I could be incorrect on that. But I think today we've reached a phase, and then of course we do also have a shipbuilding MOU, which we signed a couple of years back. So I think the base is set. And even recently when the RFI for submarines went out, there was a bid from South Korea that was almost immediately withdrawn. I can understand that the navigating the Indian system is not easy, but I think that's something that can be addressed, and therefore there is time, like I've mentioned now, the amphibious ships, there's an MOU. So we start with the simplest of naval ships, where you don't have too much of equipment and armament, and then we work our way upwards.
Okay. Time constraint, but I would like to open the floor. Is it anybody have any comments or questions related to these first sessions? Anybody, please? Okay, first, yeah.
Good morning, I'm Commodore A.J. Singh from the Indian Maritime Foundation. I'll keep the question short, I know we're out of time. And my question is to Commodore Samaddar. So you mentioned about our shipbuilding aspirations and our requirement of having Indian hulls. But somehow in all the discussions I've heard recently on shipbuilding in India, they all seem to be pertaining to addressing the Indian requirement. Very few are addressing a global requirement. So when we are talking, we need to build so many ships because India needs so many ships. All these years we've seen India has been building ships, but Indian ship owners have not been buying Indian ships, many of them. So how do we meet this aspiration that Indian ship owners buy only Indian ships? However, our capacity of shipbuilding is not restricted to Indian ship owners, we are building for the world. And we are able to also attract global majors to buy our ships.
So there are two aspects to it. One is, as I showed on the slides, the Indian requirement for ships itself is worth, I think we have done some quotes, not just 1,200 ships, which is coastal cargo, about 1,800 ships, which is EXIM cargo. That itself is 3,000 ships. I don't think we have, at the moment, the capability to make 50 ships a year. If you have to make it by 30 years, we need to build at least 100 ships a year. That capacity is not there. Secondly, as far as Indian companies ordering ships, I can give you two examples, Great Eastern Shipping and Shipping Corporation of India. Shipping Corporation of India has ordered only one ship on an Indian shipyard, and that's Cochin Shipyard Limited for 50,000 DWT. GE Shipping, the other larger shipping company, has ordered none. Most of them are from China, Japan, and South Korea. The point is that as a shipping company, buying ships, I want it to be cost effective and it has to be priced correctly, delivered on time. When these ships were being ordered on Indian shipyards, as has been brought out, the Indian shipyards failed to make that mark. Now, technology is developed, skills have come in, infrastructure has come up, and we can be competing. Shipping Corporation of India has recently issued an RFP for 6 VLCCs, that's 250,000 tons each. Only Swan and maybe Cochin Shipyard may be able to bid for it. But the technology here is that you need not build the whole ship like we have done for naval ships. We make modular construction. Some Project 17 Alpha, the Project 15 Alpha, Bravo were made in parts. Some shipyards made the forecastle, four parts, somebody made the bridge, somebody else made it. It was all brought together, integrated in a different shipyard, and we could compress the build periods. So at the moment, if we can just build all the ships that India needs, that will save us $85 billion a year. And after that, we can worry about exports. As far as warships are concerned, we are also well behind our curve. We are supposed to have been 200 odd ships. We are still at 140. And so we need enough capacity to build our own ships first before worrying about exports.
Okay, thank you. Very sorry. If you have questions, you have used to the break time. Sorry. So now I would like to. Very sorry. I would like to closing this session, but lastly, Dr. Das, any comment or any additional presentations, if you have, please.
Yeah, so I'll just add, because most of the points has been very well covered. I'll add from, sir, you have mentioned that first, even for the achieve the domestic demand itself is a huge leap we need. So taking that at this moment, but definitely with respect to the newer ships, like alternative fuel ships and newer ships, as the data we have seen that India is doing very lagging behind, except some of the hybrid, that is also very smaller segment, basically for the inland water. So we are not doing much. Fuel cell, we can definitely do much better. We can still take a lead. But with respect to the alternative fuel IC engines, so it is China, Japan, and all they are spearheading. So when we are talking about shipbuilding with these futuristic alternative fuels, we definitely need to scale up those expertise, because we don't have with respect to the engine. Also strategic collaboration with those countries, because that is a very important component. Otherwise, we can't be able to make those alternative ships, which is going to come from 2030 and beyond. So I think that is one of the area we need to work. The good part is India can definitely take a lead to become an alternative fuel supplier. So it can be like that, I have a fuel and the engine is somewhere else. So it can be also good for collaborative partnerships. So it is not that we don't have anything. So from the fuel perspective, we can be the global leaders. Alternative fuels I'm taking. But with respect to these engines and fuel cells, still we can do, but a lot of collaboration needed. But with respect to the IC engine alternative fuels, which is a very important part of this future fuel ships, we definitely need a lot of collaboration and strategic collaborations with those countries.
Thank you. Now,
welcome to session 2 of today's forum, titled Korea-India Collaboration, and it consists of 4 presentations. To begin, we will hear from Dr. Yang Jongseo of the Export-Import Bank of Korea. He is going to present on the potential for Korea-India shipbuilding industry collaboration. It provides pre-recorded presentation due to some network issue. Kindly listen carefully.
Hello, my name is Yang Jongseo. Work in Korea Exim Bank as a researcher and analyst of shipping and shipbuilding industry. First of all, thank you very much for your invitation in this meaningful forum. I will make a presentation about the topic of potential for Korea-India shipbuilding industry collaboration. Firstly, I'd like to tell about shipbuilding itself. Shipbuilding means construction of a ship in a specialized shipyards, which have specialized facilities like dry dock or berth. And the shipbuilding industry refers to the business activities of multiple shipyards. The left-hand side photo shows the dock which is a workspace dug below the waterline to make shipbuilding and launching easy. And the right-hand side photo shows the berth. It can make shipbuilding on land and then launch the ship into the sea using sliding or other methods. To operate a large-scale shipbuilding industry, several factors are necessary. Firstly, a country must have favorable coastal conditions. For example, mild weather, gentle waves, and small tidal ranges, and others. Next, well-trained and well-educated workforce is very crucial. To achieve this, the country must establish training facilities and programs. Next, a manufacturing base is also important. Manufacturing in machinery, electrical engineering, chemicals, and electronics is also very important. This is to foster a ship equipment industry. If most equipment is imported from overseas, it will be difficult to maintain a competitive shipbuilding industry. And because individual shipbuilding project requires a very big money, so the financial support must be prepared by the government or public sectors or finance institutes. Lastly, domestic demand from domestic shipping companies can help maintain a relatively stable shipbuilding industry. Also, I don't know the detailed situations of India, but I think the country has enough conditions. Some factors may require more effort. At this point, I'd like to briefly introduce the history of Korea's shipbuilding industry and about its growth. Firstly, Korea established the largest scale steel company to secure its steel supply capacity. POSCO, currently the world's seventh largest steel maker, was founded in 1968. And then, according to the third five-year economic development plan by the Korean government, which focused on fostering heavy and chemical industries, investment in the shipbuilding industry was encouraged. As a result, in 1973, Hyundai Heavy Industry was established, and two other big shipyards, Daewoo and Samsung, founded in middle and late of 1970s. And next, in the 1980s, active investment in the marine equipment industry was implemented, and it was successful to make a comprehensive equipment industry. In 1974, shipbuilding market has changed rapidly by the first oil shock. Shipbuilding boom was ended, and long-term severe recession began. But Korean shipbuilders pushed continuously technology development. They had continued to grow through price competitiveness with high quality. At last, in the late of 1980s, Japan reduced their own industry scale through the restructuring of shipbuilding industry, and as a result, they lost the world's #1 position in the 2000s, and it made a chance for Korean shipbuilders to take a leap forward. This graph shows the market shares of major shipbuilding countries. As you can see on the graph, Korea rose to the top spot in the world in the early 2000s. But as you can see, it was just a short periods. As a result of China's largest scale investment in shipbuilding facilities since the early of 2000s, China has held the top market share since the late 2000s. Now, please look at the market share figures for the recent 3 years here. As you can see, China's market shares has been rapidly expanding recently due to the improved competitiveness. Conversely, Korea's market share, which had previously maintained more than 30%, has fallen below 20%. Actually, the Korean shipbuilding industry is also facing a crisis. We estimate price competitiveness is a major factor of this crisis. Let me explain a little more specifically. In the early stage of Korea's development of large-scale shipbuilding industry, Korea had not much resources or advantages. The Korea had just a short industrial experience. The experience was not enough, and Korea had a poor capital capacities and the poor technological capabilities. Even Korea had just a low domestic demand. But in Korea, there were very excellent human resources and highly educated and high-skilled human resources were enough. And even they had passion and spirit of challenges, and wages were also significantly low than in Japan, and the prices of steel and equipment were also low. And the excellent human resources could drive the rapid technological development. And Korea still have favorable geographical coastal conditions. But about 50 years later, today, all the weaknesses were completely overcome. So it became a strength today. But the past strengths have become weaknesses conversely. While Korea has high technology now and has enough R&D capabilities, even it is excellent, and has abundant experience and track records and high quality marine equipment industry, and also has stable construction methods and process innovation capabilities. But it has also serious matters. The wages too highly raised. So high level wages and high price of steel and other equipments compared with the China, within China, it is the serious matter in Korea, especially for the price competitiveness. And and another serious matter is the young Korean workers do not want to work in shipyards. Yeah, that's also a very serious matter. And the government and the public sectors do not support compared with the competitors such like Japan or China. So I think the two countries need cooperations. Collaboration between Korea and India can create a competitive edge that threatens Chinese shipyards. If Korea provides advanced technology, advanced ship technology and construction skills and high quality control skills as a reliable big yard in the market, and if India can provide its national cost competitiveness and excellent software engineering skills and big domestic demands of ships as a big and growing country. And India's steel industry can supply high quality steel at a low price with little transportation cost. And if the ship equipment industry built through collaboration between Korea and India support these yards, the collaborated yards, the yards can build high value added smart ships and create competitive smart yards which can compete with Chinese national yards. I think the two countries can start in the bulk carrier market. A bulk carrier is the simplest structured vessel and the most technologically accessible easily, but it has the highest demand in the shipbuilding market. On this graph, the blue colors means the orders of bulk carriers. As you can see on this graph, most of the market orders were occupied by China in 10 years before and even until today. Korea cannot secure orders and cannot build bulk carriers due to the price competitiveness. This market represents the best opportunity for cooperation between the two countries. Then, we expect to expanding our collaborative industry into the small and medium-sized tanker market, and then into the container carrier markets. Now is the conclusion. I'd like to tell about India's challenge to be a big in the shipbuilding industry countries. Of course, India already has a shipbuilding industry, but to be a bigger shipbuilding industrial country, some of additional efforts are needed, I think. Uh, I think India needs to prepare the followings to grow its shipbuilding industry. I mentioned before, qualified workforce is the most important factor for the industry. To make them, government, public sectors, and industry should build the facilities and make programs to train the people to be highly skilled workers and good engineers. And then, ship equipment industry is also very important. India needs to invest to make the highly competitive equipment industry. Cooperation with the Korean industry would be better. To operate a big-scale shipbuilding industry, not only a shipyard but a shipbuilding industry cluster is needed. The cluster means a geographical area that groups together shipyards, equipment suppliers, and service companies that is needed to build a ship. It can affect the competitiveness of shipbuilding industry in terms of efficiency and cost reductions. Highly quality steel industry is also very important. India needs to invest to develop higher quality thick plate and other steel materials such like H-beams, plate, and others. And finance support plan must be prepared. China's successful factors of shipbuilding industry include financial support such as national banks and lease finances. And lastly, the most important thing is to build a rigid reliability and partnerships with Korean builders. Please never forget it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Then it is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Commodore Anil Singh of Indian Maritime Foundation. Please welcome Commodore Anil Singh with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor indeed for me to be amongst you to share my thoughts on revitalizing the shipbuilding industry in India and my thanks to KIEP and Dr. Cho for this wonderful opportunity. India is on the cusp of a maritime transformation. In the first session, we have heard in great detail the state of India's shipbuilding sector, its potential, and some of the challenges it faces. Successive maritime vision documents, be it the Maritime Agenda 2010-2020 or the subsequent Maritime Vision 2020-2030, have highlighted the importance of a robust shipbuilding industry in the country. Both documents outlined an ambitious aspiration to reach 5% of the global share from the current 0.06%, which translates in percentage terms to a 100-fold increase in our shipbuilding capacity. The recent Maritime Amrit Kaal Vision 2047, shortened as MAKV 2047, has not quantified the desired percentage, excuse me, but has simply stated that India aspires to be amongst the top 5 shipbuilding nations in the world. Efforts to revitalize the sector have also been highlighted in the earlier presentations. The importance of a sovereign shipbuilding industry and an adequate capacity and capability to build enough Indian hulls to carry Indian trade needs no emphasis, as has also been highlighted in the morning session. As per the Shipping Ministry's statistics, only 4.11% of Indian trade was carried on Indian hulls in 2023. This is a strategic vulnerability that a predominantly maritime nation like India can ill afford. The ongoing conflict in West Asia and its impact on the movement of global energy is coming home to us literally and metaphorically. Therefore, I will dive straight into the potential of how India, which is a fast-growing large economy, and the Republic of Korea, which is a shipbuilding giant, can work together in the shipbuilding sector to the mutual benefit of both countries. There are striking similarities in India and Korea's approach to the maritime domain. Both countries have a peninsular geographic conformation, with their external trade and economic engagement with the world, mainly through the maritime domain. Both countries have the sea on 3 sides and an inhospitable continental north. While the ROK has to contend with the nuclear North Korea, India has the Himalayas and 2 adversarial nuclear neighbors who are constantly sniping at our heels. Hence, for both countries, there is virtually no trade across the land border. Till about 2 decades or so ago, this preoccupation with a hostile land neighborhood had driven a continental security mindset in both countries, with a consequent neglect of their maritime interests. This has changed appreciably since then, since the turn of the century, which has coincided with both countries changing tack and realigning their priorities towards the sea. From a geo-economic perspective, both South Korea and India can be considered island states. In fact, the Indian Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, while addressing the Naval Commanders Conference last year, said in so many words, and I quote, "India was once a landlocked country with seashores, but now it can be seen as an island country with land borders. Much the same is true of South Korea as well." These similarities notwithstanding, both countries followed very different paths towards indigenous shipbuilding. Both countries began modern domestic shipbuilding in the 1960s and achieved a degree of maturity in the 1970s. While India focused its attention on warship construction in its endeavor to become a multi-dimensional aircraft carrier-centric blue water navy, the Korean focus was on smaller patrol vessels, which seemed sufficient to counter the North Korean challenge. The security umbrella provided by the US was there to take care of its sea lines of communication and any other blue water threat. The ROK concentrated on commercial shipbuilding and in fact began the transformation from wood to steel as late as the 1970s. India, on the other hand, was building medium-sized ocean-going merchant vessels in the 1970s. I myself remember seeing a 75,000-ton Shipping Corporation of India-owned bulk carrier, Rani Padmini, getting finishing touches in the Cochin shipyard when I first visited Cochin as a young naval officer in 1981. This was at that time the largest ship built in India. However, it took 7 years to build. Similarly, Hindustan Shipyard in Visakhapatnam was building 30,000-ton bulk carriers for the Shipping Corporation of India. But they took so long to build that SCI refused to accept them. However, commercial shipbuilding in India therefore never picked up the desired momentum due to a variety of reasons at that time. Inefficient shipyards, uncompetitive pricing, suboptimal quality, disruptive politically driven trade unions, and cyclical swings in global demand and supply amongst others. On the other hand, South Korea has been a remarkable success story in shipbuilding. It has been able to achieve this success in a far shorter time than most other shipbuilding nations, with hardly any rich tradition of shipbuilding, unlike the other big maritime powers like the US, China, Russia, Japan, and others. It began with the recognition of the importance of an indigenous shipbuilding industry and was actively supported by the political leadership and an incentivized industrial environment with subsidies being offered to both government and private entities. 1962's five-year economic plan transformed the Korean economy into an export-oriented one. The success of this plan led to the Shipbuilding Industry Promotion Law in 1967 to bolster the shipbuilding sector through subsidies and included warship programs as well. Indigenous warship construction began in the 1970s, with only one shipyard capable of building steel hulls in that country. But by 1980, it had launched its first frigate. In 1992, it commissioned its first submarine built in Germany, and in the same year, commissioned its first indigenously built Type 209 submarine. India too commissioned its first indigenously built Type 209 submarine in the same year, followed by the second one in 1994. However, due to a host of reasons, largely of our own making, we discontinued this program thereafter. South Korea, on the other hand, maintained the momentum, and today South Korea is building the KSS-3 class of submarine, which is considered one of the most advanced SSKs in the world, and is also exporting submarines to other countries, while we are still importing advanced submarine technology to support our indigenous submarine building programs. By the 1990s, Korea's commercial shipbuilding sector had become self-sustaining without subsidies. By 2000, it had become the largest shipbuilder in the world. Presently, Korea has almost 30%, I think around 28% of the global market, second only to China, whereas India continues to languish with a share of only about 0.06% and ranks 16th globally. The spectacular success of the South Korean shipbuilding program has valuable lessons for developing middle powers like India, which have the advantage of competitive costs, a technologically mature industrial ecosystem, and a large pool of technically qualified people. These are advantages which India needs to leverage. The recent incentivization announced for revitalizing the commercial shipbuilding sector in India, including an allocation of about $7.5 billion, is a very positive step to kickstart the process. Hopefully, this will address some of the competitive challenge India faces in the global market. The director, DPIIT and from the ministry gave us a very good overview of exactly what these schemes are, and I hope it does what it's supposed to do. The inclusion of shipbuilding as an infrastructure sector, which shipbuilders have been requesting for years, also will reduce some of the structural bottlenecks and act as a force multiplier in making Indian shipbuilding more efficient and competitive. It is therefore very gratifying to see that leading Korean shipyards have been visiting their Indian counterparts in recent months to identify areas for cooperation and collaboration, which could include investment, technology transfer, and perhaps even joint ventures. Leading Indian shipyards like Cochin Shipyard, Hindustan Shipyard Visakhapatnam, and the privately owned Swan Shipyard in Pipavav have been in active discussion with leading Korean shipyards. Indian government delegations have also visited these yards in Korea. CSL, Cochin Shipyard, is very optimistic about partnering with one of the large Korean shipyards for building large ships. Media reports have indicated that Hyundai is planning to build a greenfield shipyard on the Tamil Nadu coast. Indian shipyards have capacity, but lack orders, and are therefore ideally positioned to absorb the extra capacity required by the Korean shipyards to deliver their ships on time. Indian shipyards stand to gain from working with these modern, technologically advanced shipyards to establish long-term relationships and benefit in improving their knowledge of advanced design, which is a weak area in India. Other areas where India would benefit greatly would be in absorbing contemporary technology in automation and autonomous functions, smart solutions to improve efficiency and productivity, electric and hybrid propulsion, green shipping initiatives, and many other spin-offs. These partnerships will also foster a marine industry of tier 1, 2 and 3 vendors, many of whom could be integrated into the global ecosystem and thereby offset the supply chain challenges being faced in many advanced industrial markets. Shipyards building ships generate a multiplier of 6. Every job created in a shipyard generates 6 jobs in the related ancillary industry. A third element with great potential for cooperation is in ship repair and ship recycling. In ship repair, a skilled ancillary industry is important. India has the industrial capacity to become a leading ship repair hub, but unfortunately, Indian shipyards have not been able to capitalize on this, and many Indian ship owners also prefer sending their ships to Singapore and other efficient ship repair centers. India has been one of the leading leading countries in recycling, but it now requires an infusion of technology to meet the exacting environmental standards. However, this optimism should also be tempered with a dose of caution. A long-term partnership model will need to address many structural, regulatory, and procedural challenges. The absence of customized maritime-oriented financial framework has been one of the impediments. It is important that financing needs for shipbuilding is handled by finance professionals familiar with the maritime domain, instead of institutionalized bankers who assess risk very differently. Even the incentive schemes being offered by the government will have to be accompanied by an enabling policy framework and, most importantly, a change in bureaucratic mindsets to ensure that these are followed in letter and spirit and the money is well spent. Finally, South Korea and India are two like-minded maritime middle powers in the Indo-Pacific. A robust bilateral cooperation framework in the maritime domain would not only be of mutual benefit to both countries, but also to the region as a whole. A robust shipbuilding capability is integral to this framework. In fact, it is a strategic imperative to mitigate any economic vulnerability in an increasingly contested and uncertain world. I will end here. Thank you for your patience, and I will look forward to answering any questions that you might have during the panel discussion.
Then I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kyunghoon Kim. He will speak on Korean-India Maritime Cooperation in terms of development financing packages. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. My name is Kyunghoon Kim. I'm the head of India and South Asia team from Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, KIEP. Thank you all for participating in this very important seminar organized by the Delhi office. Today, I'm pleased to present the outcomes of a research project commissioned by the Office for Government Policy Coordination under Korea's Prime Minister's office. This project examined how Korea and India can strengthen cooperation in the maritime sector through a development partnership framework. Please note that the views expressed here are solely my own and do not represent the official position of the Government of the Republic of Korea. Since many speakers today have discussed business-level cooperation in shipbuilding, my presentation will focus on a somewhat different perspective, what the Korean government may be able to offer to support shipbuilding and maritime cooperation through development partnership instruments. In other words, rather than focusing on commercial collaboration between companies, this study explores how government-led development cooperation, financing tools, and policy partnerships could help create an enabling environment for deeper Korea-India shipbuilding cooperation. The study assessed the evolving maritime policy environment in India, identified priority sectors for cooperation, and developed a partnership framework that could guide future initiatives by Korean development agencies and financial institutions. India is now the world's most populous country and one of the largest contributors to global economic growth. Its GDP has already surpassed that of the United Kingdom and France, and currently ranks 5th globally. Projections suggest that India may overtake Germany and Japan within the next few years. Despite India's rapid rise, Korea-India cooperation remains relatively modest, especially when compared with Korea's engagement with smaller Southeast Asian countries such as Vietnam and Indonesia. Given India's demographic scale, industrial ambition, and geopolitical importance in the Indo-Pacific, this gap represents both a strategic challenge and a major opportunity for Korea. India's strategic importance continues to grow, yet policy-level engagement between the two countries has not always kept pace with economic realities. However, there are encouraging developments. Korean investment in India has recently reached record levels. Korean firms increasingly view India not only as a consumer market, but also as a long-term production base. As Korean companies seek to diversify supply chains and amid global uncertainty, India's scale and growth potential make it an increasingly important partner. In this context, development cooperation can serve as an important policy instrument. Just as Korea's development cooperation helped create enabling environments in countries such as Vietnam and Indonesia, similar approaches could strengthen Korea's strategic engagement with India. Historically, Korea's development cooperation with India has been relatively limited. One reason is that India operates under its own distinct development partnership framework, which required time for Korean institutions to understand and adapt to. In addition, Japan has long established itself as India's largest development partner, making it difficult for Korea to demonstrate clearly differentiated comparative advantages. However, the current policy environment is changing and new opportunities are emerging, particularly in sectors linked to maritime economy. Both of Korea's development partnership agencies, namely the Export-Import Bank of Korea, KEXIM, and Korea International Cooperation Agency, KOICA, have accumulated meaningful experience and networks in India in recent years. At the same time, the Indian government has expressed interest in cooperation with Korea in shipbuilding and related maritime sectors. Senior officials from the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways and the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas have engaged directly with major Korean shipyards. These interactions indicate growing interest on the Indian side in expanding cooperation with Korea's maritime industries, especially the shipbuilding sector. Recent high-level exchanges between the two governments have further reinforced this momentum. Following bilateral meetings, both Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar publicly emphasized maritime and shipbuilding cooperation with Korea. The prominence and specificity of these references suggest strong political interest in expanding cooperation in this sector. Maritime initiatives, therefore, deserve serious consideration as potential flagship areas within the broader bilateral relationship. As many presenters have already mentioned, the private sector has begun to respond. HD Hyundai, one of the world's leading shipbuilders, has signed memoranda of understanding with Indian shipyards, including Cochin Shipyard Limited. Additional subsidiary level agreements have followed, outlining more specific areas of cooperation. These developments demonstrate that Korean companies are willing to engage commercially. However, large-scale industrial cooperation often requires supportive policy frameworks, financing mechanisms, and infrastructure planning. Here, development partnership instruments can play an important catalytic role. Against this backdrop, the study proposed a maritime development partnership package designed to advance the strategic interests of both countries. The timing is particularly favorable. The global shipbuilding cycle is currently supportive, providing Korean firms with both capacity and incentives to expand internationally. Given the cyclical nature of the shipbuilding industry, diversification into emerging countries is strategically important. At the same time, as Korea's domestic growth moderates, overseas maritime infrastructure projects and exports of maritime industrial products to fast-growing countries such as India could open new pathways. And India views the maritime economy as central to its development strategy, linked to Make in India, logistics competitiveness, energy transition, and export expansion. India has repeatedly identified Korea as a potential partner in these sectors. This convergence of interests creates a clear win-win opportunity. Next, I will briefly walk you through the key findings of this research. Korea's strengths in maritime industries are deeply rooted in its development experience, as the previous presenter from Exim Bank has highlighted. As a peninsula surrounded by see on three sides, Korea's economic transformation since the 1970s relied heavily on export-led industrialization. Ports, shipping, and shipbuilding were central to this process, and now Korea holds world-leading positions in these sectors. Today, Korea possesses a comprehensive maritime industrial ecosystem that includes globally competitive shipbuilders, shipping companies, port operators, marine equipment manufacturers, and specialized engineering firms. This integrated ecosystem represents one of Korea's major competitive advantages. Another important strength is Korea's ability to combine industrial capabilities with development finance. Through instruments such as Economic Development Corporation Fund, EDCF, managed by Korean Exim Bank, Korea can provide concessional financing alongside policy advisory services, feasibility studies, and capacity building programs. This integrated approach allows Korea to deliver end-to-end maritime partnerships, linking knowledge transfer, infrastructure development, investment financing, and workforce development within a single framework. Relatively few countries possess both advanced maritime industries and structured development financing tools at this level. At the same time, India's maritime policy landscape is evolving rapidly. As several presenters have already highlighted, the Indian government has introduced two major frameworks: Maritime India Vision 2030 and Maritime Amrit Vision 2047. These strategies set ambitious targets for port modernization, logistics efficiency, and shipbuilding capacity. The most ambitious goal is to raise India's shipbuilding industry from around 20th in the world to the top 10 by 2030 and further to the top 5 by 2047. Domestic demand is a major driver of this strategy. Because many large shipping and energy companies are state-owned, the government has substantial purchasing power. Recently, Prime Minister Modi announced long-term plans to order 437 ships worth around $25 billion. India has also introduced various regulatory reforms, fiscal incentives, and maritime development fund to support expansion of this shipbuilding sector. These policy signals clearly indicate that maritime development has become a national priority. Given India's federal structure, identifying a strategic partner state is essential. Based on field research and stakeholder consultations, the study identified Thoothukudi, Tamil Nadu, as a particularly promising cooperation hub. I'm sure our friends from Guidance, Tamil Nadu, will explore more on this issue. Tamil Nadu has a population of approximately 75 million and one of the largest state economies in India. It ranks highly in business environment indicators and hosts extensive manufacturing infrastructure and special economic zones. Many Korean companies already operate there, including Hyundai Motors' largest overseas production facility. This existing industrial presence suggests Tamil Nadu could serve as an effective entry point for launching a Korea-India maritime development that could later expand to other coastal states. Through consultations and case analysis, the study identified 7 priority cooperation areas: shipbuilding clusters, port development, integrated logistics infrastructure, human resource development, marine research collaboration, fisheries modernization, and environmental resilience. The aim of projects in these proposed cooperation areas is to support the sustainable development of India's shipbuilding industry and broader maritime economy while strengthening long-term industrial cooperation between Korea and India. Rather than treating these areas as isolated projects, the study organized them within a broader partnership framework designed to enhance competitiveness and sustainability. Industrial and infrastructure projects can sometimes generate social and environmental risks. For this reason, sustainability considerations were incorporated into the overall partnership architecture. As part of this research, we conducted an in-depth study of these 7 cooperation areas and identified specific subsectors and potential projects, mostly in southern part of Tamil Nadu, that could serve as the basis for a Korea-India maritime development partnership. Based on this analysis, the study also outlined how these priority areas could be translated into structured policy packages. The study proposed 3 thematic project packages focusing on supply chain resilience, green maritime development, and digital transformation. The intention was to demonstrate how financing instruments, policy advisory services, institutional support, and technical cooperation could be aligned in a coordinated manner. For large-scale infrastructure such as shipbuilding clusters, ports, and logistics corridors, the study proposed finance complementary packages. These packages would combine large concessional financing projects with feasibility studies, policy consultation, and regulatory support. In parallel, grant-based initiatives covering human resources, research cooperation, fisheries, and environmental programs could function as a supplementary component within this same integrated frameworks. This approach would allow economic infrastructure development to proceed alongside social, environmental, and institutional strengthening. In conclusion, an India-Korea Maritime Development Partnership appears strategically timely, economically complementary, and politically supported. By combining Korea's integrated maritime ecosystem with India's ambitious maritime development agenda, the two countries have significant potential to deepen industrial cooperation, strengthen supply chain resilience, and support sustainable growth. We hope the findings of this study will contribute to ongoing discussions on how to further expand Korea-India cooperation in the maritime sector. Thank you.
Next, this is the final presentation. We will hear from Mr. Sanjay Krishna of Guidance, Tamil Nadu. Please welcome Mr. Sanjay Krishna with a big round of applause.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sanjay, for the introduction. So, Tamil Nadu recently have launched the shipbuilding policy, and this is a very comprehensive policy. And we at Guidance, like Sanjay just pointed out, we drive investment promotion, we drive policy, we drive strategy, as well as end-to-end investor facilitation. So we have designed the policy in such a way that it complements the whole life cycle of any investment comes in, and also complement the whole shipbuilding industry as whole. So these figures, I believe we have already spoken, and we don't want to get into that again and again. So we'll just move on to the opportunity gap which we have within the nation. So we have been focusing more on trade, and we have been focusing more on the ship repair aspects. So with regards to that, we have a huge potential for the state as well. If you have seen our policy will complement the geographical and geological advantages of the state. Especially, it is one of the state which has the longest coastline, which is about 1,068 kilometers. And we have an optimal coastal underwater terrain, which can have a capability of holding up to 2 lakh DWT. And we have a 3-tier defense, which is mangroves, dunes, and coral reefs. So this is a 3-tier defense system which is naturally occurring in our state, and is really complement the shipbuilding industry to come in. And we have a very optimal climate for the shipbuilding aspects. We have 54 to 60 dry days, which is very unique for a state to actually have this. And we have a proximity to international shipping lanes. About 7 to 9% of traffic is within the 300 nautical miles. So this is something which is very unique, and we have complemented this with our policy. And it also complements the heavy industry, the nature of the shipbuilding as a whole. And the industries which has been incentivized under this policy are as follows, which is shipyards. We have formulated a minimum investment of 1,000 crore investment and a minimum of 1,000 jobs. And the second would be the marine component manufacturers, which has a minimum of 50 crore investment, minimum 100 jobs. And we also have a localization aspect, supplying at least 50% of production to the shipyards. And we have ship design institutions. We are incentivizing the ship design aspects as well. Here we are looking at a minimum 200 direct employment in 3 years. And R&D institutions and GCCs are also another focus area. Here we are looking at a minimum of 50 crore in EFA, which is eligible fixed assets for R&D. And GCC, we are looking at a minimum 500 jobs. These are the employment and investment figures aspects to the R&D and GCC. Then the last one, which is focus, is green ship recycling yards. Here we are incentivizing the first 5 ship recycling yards with a minimum investment of 50 crores and a minimum employment of 100 employees. So with that, I would request Sanjay to take over to deep dive on the structured package of assistance, the incentives which we offer in the policy. Thank you.
So as part of the structured package of assistance, we understand the industry completely. As the previous speakers mentioned, the industry should work hand in hand to create policies to facilitate the industry and understand their needs. As per that, equity participation is a major impetus to the industry to make the industry grow at a rapid pace, is what we understood via the interactions with stakeholders and major shipyards across the globe. So we've introduced equity participation where the state will be participating as an equity stakeholder in the shipyard being set up in the state. And we would also be doing asset leasing, capital subsidy on eligible fixed assets, and also production linked incentives which complements the national scheme. So as we deep dive into the capital subsidy, we have 4 different segments based on the investment size which comes into the state. Starting with Kalam, these names are derived from Tamil words which describe a ship based on the size of the ship. So Kalam, it is 1,000 to 1,999 crores, which will attract a 10% subsidy, which will be disbursed in a period of 8 years. That is the important factor here, which will assist the shipyard to set up and use the funds for operation as well, which is very uniquely proportioned. And the next category is Naval, which is 2,000 crores to 4,999 crores, which will attract a subsidy of 15%, which will be disbursed in same 8 to 10 years. The investment period for that is 10 years, and which will have a minimum requirement of 1,000 jobs. The next category is Vangam, 5,000 to 12,000 crores, 11,999 crores, and anything above 12,000 will be couple, which will attract 25%, which is the maximum as per for capital subsidy. Apart from that, we have a green vessel bonus, which will have a 2% of cumulative EFA for anything more than 450 deadweight tons for green vessels made in the first 6 years of the functioning of the shipyard. So apart from this, we do have common incentives for shipyards setting up in the state. The training subsidy for any number of for all the employees employed under the shipyard, 10,000 rupees training subsidy will be given per month for 2 years. And the electricity exemption is being given to the shipyard for 5 years, and there will be an interest subvention of 2% on the rebate on loans, which the shipyard is availing, which is huge in terms of the benefit which is passed on to the OPEX. And green industry incentives for 50% subsidy on the green tech which is being created in the shipyard. And industrial housing, which will be counted as part of EFA, as this is an employment driver. We have thought through that this should be counted as part of the eligible fixed assets which the shipyards is investing in. And we are promoting allied industries and R&D as part of the policy as well. We think that R&D institutions as single body will not help grow the industry as fast as R&D set up by a company does. So there will be a hand-in-hand collaboration with industry and academia, which will be facilitated by our guidance. And we have a separate cell called Work Lab Cells, which understands the requirements of the industry and creates curriculum and adapt for the industry's requirements. We have already signed an MOU with IMU, and we are starting with a 40-acre facility sooner in Toothukudi. So in this, we have a special capital subsidy of 25% of EFA invested for the component manufacturers, quality certification, any expense which is spent on quality certifications will be reimbursed up to 50%. IP registration similarly 50%. Innovation lab, if they set up any innovation lab in the state, that will be reimbursed up to a percentage of 50. And similarly for licensing and prototyping cost. We also incentivize green recycling, which is like we have mandates here where the recycling yards have HKC, Hong Kong Convention and EU certifications for recycling of ships.
We've had 4 very enlightening talks by 4 eminent speakers, and they have covered a vast variety of subjects as to how we can go about collaborating and what kind of opportunities are present in this field of shipbuilding between Korea and India. I will just spend a couple of minutes in summarizing a few things and putting out what I understood out of it so that the question answer session can be focused on what the speakers have said and what takeaways we can get from this entire session. As I see it, there are 3 structural bottlenecks. While we have spoken about a lot of opportunities and there's a lot of upbeat mood about what a great idea this is, and I completely agree with that. Since we are looking at the challenges and opportunities and the financial and fiscal issues, I thought I will just bring out a few bottlenecks that I potentially see in this aspect as well. The first one is industrial capacity and capability gap. Korea has a lot of technology. India has to be able to absorb it. Infrastructure is another major issue. The number and size of Indian shipyards, though one speaker said that we have a lot of capacity, but then the kind of growth we are looking at and what the gentleman from the ministry projected in the morning, 10 million tons, that would require a huge amount of capacity upgrade, which has to be done locally here. This will of course be under the backdrop of the low labor but low productivity cost, low productivity in India, and the high labor versus high productivity in Korea. This balance is going to be a big challenge for both the sides. And with the emphasis of a labor-intensive market in India versus an automated one in Korea, that's going to be even more compounded. So I'm sure that those involved will have to really flesh out this part. With regard to the financial and market constraints, a lot of subsidies and finances and support has been organized by the government of India and by the government of Tamil Nadu. But there still remain associated challenges of customs, GST, and other regulations like classification societies, which also have to come together to actually make this happen. And I'm not sure to what extent those are being addressed. And that would perhaps be my question to you as well, when I give you the question that how is this going to be addressed? Because till we iron out these things, you can keep deciding to import or get an equipment, but if it's stuck at the customs warehouse for 4 months, it defeats the very purpose, because they were not sent the memo. With regard to the ecosystem and policy, there is a need to set up a marine equipment supply chain in India, which is a weakness. And this is not, when we say shipbuilding, we just don't mean making a hull. There are propulsion systems, there are engines, there are navigation systems. There is a whole lot of automation and digitization required, which has to come into the process of making the ship and also on fitting on board the ship. That will also have to be set up ab initio in a number of cases in the clusters we're looking at. The best practices and work cultures from both sides will have to be incorporated and enmeshed. And those will be working level challenges as I see it. So with this background, I would pose my first question to the panelists. What kind of ships do we actually want to build? We have heard speakers since the morning telling us about LNG carriers, bulk carriers. Some have said dredgers, some have said small coastal ships. Now, the whole spectrum is vast. And while I'm sure we would like to build everything, I don't think that we can start too big and try to do everything at one time. So I would like to hear the views of the panelists as to what we should focus on to start with.
Thank you for that question and very good summary of the session. I believe that to develop a capital-intensive industry, we need to start somewhere. And it obviously needs the so-called a big push model of economic development. In the literature, we know that that requires a massive, huge supplementary and coordinated capital injection, whether from government or the private sector through the government fixing the coordination failure problems. And after doing that, we have a shipyard. And to begin with, we need to start with low value-added industry, because industrial development is a process of learning. And of course, low value-added ships, they are huge and relatively technology advanced compared to advanced ships 30 years ago. I believe India does have capacity to build ships such as oil tankers and container ships. Yet the level of technology for LPG, LNG ships are lacking in the country, but that will take time to catch up.
Thank you very much. A question for Mr. Sanjay Krishna. As I was just saying, how do you propose to overcome these procedural and regulatory challenges which are ancillary to the shipbuilding?
Right. So, as far as the national standards are concerned and the ease of doing business is concerned with Tamil Nadu has pioneered the single window system. Through single window system, we have addressed all queries, approvals, and regulatory compliance aspects through single window, which can be resolved like if mapped properly, if the industry gives us a proper roadmap where the bottleneck is from the state side, that can be sorted out at a rapid phase. Like, to point an example for the previous investment which happened in the state recently, the JLR investment, which was like brought the first car which was manufactured out of the factory, which was found, the foundation stone was laid just 15 months before. So that's how we work at pace. So where the bottleneck is, if the industry highlights it to us, we would love to address it at the first go.
Thank you, very positive answer.
Can I just jump in to Sanjay's answer? We believe Tamil Nadu is one of most business-friendly states in the country. Of course, things need to be improved. Regulations are never perfect. But for example, Hyundai Motors manufactures 770,000 vehicles in the States, and it has localized over 1,200 key components through partnerships with more than 200 suppliers. And its localization rate in the Tamil Nadu factory stands at 81.7%, which is very high. So considering these factors, that is one of the reasons why we chose Tamil Nadu for our maritime development package, as well as why HD Hyundai chose Tamil Nadu to work with in the short to medium term.
Thank you very much. I'll ask my last question to Commander Anil Singh. Given what Dr. Kim just said, that you could probably start small and then build bigger. And since we are lacking domestically in this whole ecosystem of support and ancillary equipment and clusters, could we consider a model where Indian shipyards integrate into the Korea-led global production chain rather than replicating a full-scale model within India? So could that be an option?
I think we have to identify what we need and not just replicate whatever Korea is making. There are two aspects to it. Firstly, of course, the fact is that if we are going to be identified by Korea as the country of choice to absorb their constraints, capacity constraints, certainly we will work with them and they will provide that kind of infrastructure support to be able to deliver big ships, more technologically advanced ships. But as far as India is concerned, personally, I don't think we are going to, or we should even try and compete with the Chinas and the South Koreas and Japans. We should try and look for a niche area where people come to India for that kind of a ship. Maybe a 20,000 ton ship, maybe a 30,000 ship, maybe a green ship, maybe a hydrogen, I don't know. Something that India has the capacity to do, infrastructure capacity, and also we have a technologically sound base in India. We have a good ancillary industry in India. So we have to capitalize on what we have rather than aspire to something that we will find very, very difficult to achieve. Coming to your first question which you asked, I think that's basically what type of ships are we looking at was one aspect. And coming to the other thing you mentioned about the supply chain thing. Now, what is happening across the world, and this is also because of the geopolitical uncertainty that's happening, and because I'm associated with industry, I'm seeing it happen, is that the traditional tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 companies, the sub-suppliers to the big OEMs across the world, are now choked to capacity. They do not have the capacity to take any more because everybody's defense budgets are going up, maritime budgets are going up, everything's going up. India offers a great alternative. We have a fairly sophisticated technological base. We have qualified manpower, probably needs a little more tweaking. So we have the opportunity to become, firstly, to become suppliers to our own selves for our indigenization and make in India and everything else for MAKV 2047, but more importantly, to integrate ourselves into the global supply chain of these companies. I think that is an opportunity we should not miss across the entire maritime domain, whether it's warships, merchant ships, or whatever kind of maritime infrastructure may be there.
Thank you for that. I will now throw the floor open to the audience. The gentleman right here. Could somebody give a mic, please?
My name is Ike Sena. I am Managing Director, Indo-Korea Business Culture Center. Many congratulations to all the panelists. Your address to the audience was very, very informative. My small point, India and Korea were almost same per capita income in 1962. But from 62 to 89, they jumped in such a way that as on 2025, India's per capita is 2,800 to 2,900, whereas Korea is 38,000. How do we compare ourselves? How have they managed to become who they are, what they are? Their population is only 5 crore. We are talking so more than book knowledge and information. Please give us the takeaway of how you would like to really implement on ground, how you create jobs with the youth, how the skill with each other's country that take back, allow people like me to take this matter up with the number one man who is working day in and day out to put things together. Thank you.
Since I'm the only Korean on this stage, I think I have to answer this question. So since we're focusing on industrialization, and especially the shipbuilding industry, I think it was smart mixture of government support as well as market-led mechanisms. So market players saw the signals in the world market, and they decided to take risks in investing in capital-intensive sectors, and the government used various policy tools, including trade investment tools, as well as subsidies to support this industrialization. So it was cooperation, collaboration between private sector and the government in accelerating economic development, economic growth. And I believe India is kind of replicating what Korea has been doing during the 80s and 70s. The key players, excluding some state-owned manufacturers, are mainly private companies. And at the same time, the government is using targeted subsidies to support these strategically important areas. And of course, not all industrial policies succeed. There will be government failures while fixing market failures and coordination failures. But I think India is starting to understand how to apply these tools to draw in investment from abroad as well as domestically.
The gentleman at the end. I'm sorry, sir, I just saw you. I laughed at him. Next.
Thank you, everybody. The skill development in India is very far away, all right? And in that case, the maritime industry needs capital investments and skill, labor force also. Now, thinking that the possibility of getting all these two aspects is a little difficult sometime in Indian environment right now, isn't it possible to have some skilled information or skilled industry?
Excuse me, sir, could you please speak a bit louder? We can't hear you.
Okay, I wanted to find out if there is an opportunity.
Now it's okay. It's okay. Now it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Fine. Okay, fine. Okay, how the ancillary units in the maritime industry can get better technology thought process to give their offers to the international companies to be integrated into their own shipyards, maybe in Korea. So this is what I think you have already been discussing between the panel itself. But the problem I think we are facing, I am into the industry itself, the ancillary units are not compiled or active to the technology these people require. How do you think that it could be possible for getting the best education or technology for them to be a good ancillary unit for these companies there?
I think this was also covered by the professor earlier. We need to build a maritime education infrastructure in the country. We do not have that. It's in very small pockets. I remember Swan Shipyard, which is now in Pipavav, was earlier Pipavav Shipyard. And Pipavav Shipyard at that time, when it was supposed to be the most dynamic shipyard in the country and expected to grow into a globally leading shipyard to compete with Hyundai and all, had adopted 3 ITIs in that belt and tailored the syllabus of the ITIs to their requirement. Where then people, the boys and girls who joined those ITIs came out with diplomas specific to the skills required by the shipyard. But of course, then the shipyard sort of fell apart and everything, the system didn't work. But I think this could be one of the means of doing it. Secondly, the need for skilled education was brought out in the first session. There is a tremendous need for skilled education in the country, definitely. But skilling is one of the focus areas. If you see, even in Sagarmala, which is a portlet development program, skilling is one of the areas, centers of excellence, skilling. I know we've not been very successful in it so far, but I suppose it will pick up momentum once the industry itself starts competing on that scale. As we see in the defense industry with which I'm associated, we are seeing the improvement in the tier 2, tier 3 vendors, the kind of work that is happening now in those companies which we thought, how will they ever work? How will they ever come up with these, globally advanced technologies? Now they're actually becoming a part of the global ecosystem with many of the major defense OEMs in the country. It works both ways. For example, if South Korean shipyards were to come and start working in India, automatically the workforce in our shipyards will get skilled, working with the South Koreans, understanding how they think, understanding how they're doing what they're doing. They will get skilled. Plus a little bit of formal skill training over and above that will, I think, bring them up on par. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a slow process, but if we set our minds to it, we can do it.
I'd like to add on to that, maybe like Tamil Nadu as a pioneer here, we are collaborating with the shipyards, investing into the state and understand what skill requirements they need. And we are setting up institutions to cater the courses there and train the candidates well in advance before the shipyards sets up their operations. Already during our visits to multiple shipyards and shipwrecking sites in India, 4 out of 10 out of what we have interacted, 4 out of 10 have trained or studied in Tamil Nadu. That is a plus mark for whole of India, maybe, as Tamil Nadu being the training center for India.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I have 2 questions. First, I would like to give you my colleague, Dr. Kim, and Mr. Krishna from the Tamil Nadu. Dr. Kim, you already show us very wonderful potentials cooperations in the very comprehensive potentials, especially Korea and India, especially the Tamil Nadu, including the shipbuilding, not only shipbuilding, including the port logistics and the workforce development also. So my question is, including you, what kind of the things we need to do to make our scenario to make come true? What kind of thing is needed first at this moment? And second, Mr. Anil Jai, thank you so much for your very informative the presentations, especially the history of the development, the shipbuilding sector in both countries. So I think you are also involved in some company related in the European companies. So I would like to know what kind of things, what do you think the European companies to evaluate international competitiveness in Indian shipbuilding sector, and what is the outlook in the Indian shipbuilding sector?
So I would say the make or break factor for shipbuilding in India to develop and then to grow is the finance, I guess. The rate of interest, the rate of borrowing in India is comparatively higher to Japan, Korea, and other Eastern countries. So if we are cost competitive on that front, the whole of the cost which is passed down to the supply chain would drastically reduce. So finance would be first aspect. We would again go to Korea for the financial support if through other modes which Mr. Kim explained through his presentations. So we're open for collaboration in that front as well.
So the Indian government, the central government is in charge of the seaside infrastructure when building shipbuilding, and the state government is in charge of landside infrastructure. And they have laid out various incentives and development funds to develop these industrial zones, especially the one in Tamil Nadu. And of course, I believe that they do have fiscal and financial capacity to create 2 or 3 clusters in the short to medium term. But to accelerate their process, I think development financing can play an important role. Developing a supply chain in a capital-intensive sector like shipbuilding is very complex and requires very good linkages with industrial zones in the land, deep in the state. And to do that, we need a good industrial corridor, transport networks, as well as good software, customs infrastructure, which all requires government financing. And I believe Korea's development financing can play a role there.
Coming to your question, Dr. Cho, yes, I am associated with the European defense industry, and in fact, we built our first submarine in India, like I mentioned, the same year that Korea built its first submarine. South Korea built its first submarine in 1992, both with collaboration with HEW. Well, you continued with that program and today have become a leading submarine builder. We discontinued that program for a variety of reasons. I won't go into those now. It was a major strategic mistake I think we made. And so we are still trying to come to terms with that and trying to reach, perhaps in a few years from now, where South Korea is today in submarine construction. But the question that you brought out, most European defense manufacturers today are looking to India as an alternate source of supply, which is what I mentioned. Because of the pressure on European sub-vendors and sub-suppliers, they are looking for alternate sources where they are willing to bring in certain amount of technology and expect that the Indian companies, the Indian MSMEs, small Indian companies will rise to the occasion and be able to deliver the quality that is expected. And let me tell you from my personal experience, there are some outstanding companies doing outstanding work. Small outfits, but doing great work. And if they get that opportunity, they'll be able to graduate to the next level very easily because they have the skills, they probably lack the funds at this point of time. If they get that sort of financial support. From the Indian perspective, I think what we've done in the defense sector could perhaps be replicated in the shipping sector as well. We also, defense, we are the largest importers of military hardware in the world. We have been over the last few years. But the thrust that has been given to indigenization in India sent a very strong message to the world that if you want to be part of the Indian defense market and Indian defense ecosystem, which is a huge market and a huge ecosystem, you have to either be a part of it or you're out of the game in 5 to 7 years from now. So you could go with the shortcut and just import deliver equipment, or you could make an effort to become part of the Indian supply chain, Indian defense mechanism, the Indian defense industry mechanism. So I think most companies have adopted that. They've realized that India is a big market and India has the potential to offer the same kind of technology, perhaps at a cheaper rate than those very sophisticated European markets, which tend to be very expensive, to countries in the neighborhood, to India's sort of global south. So those are the kind of things that are now being explored. But because India put its foot down at, if you know our defense procurement procedure, it's laid down categories. They've fixed the level of indigenization for every kind of equipment and said this is 60%, 70%, 80% or whatever it might be. There is no option for companies but to find Indian suppliers, but to find Indian manufacturers who can deliver that equipment. They've left no choice to the foreign companies to do that. And let me tell you, the response has been very positive, which I'm seeing, on a day-to-day basis as part of my work. So that is one way we can do it in India. We were talking of skilling, etc., the question that came up, this is one way of doing it. But everything has to reach a certain level of maturity before it can be implemented. We are still, I think in shipbuilding, we are still taking baby steps at the moment. And maybe a few years from now, if this thrust continues and the government's thrust on shipbuilding continues, I think we'll be where we are now with the defense industry, or heading where we are with the defense industry at the moment.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been told that if I don't bring the session to a stop, I'll not be given any lunch. I have no intention of sacrificing my lunch, so all that remains for me is now to thank our very eminent speakers, and also thanks to Dr. Yang, who's not with us but had given us a recorded message for this very informative and wonderful session. And whatever.
Thank you. I already guarantee before 2 p.m. we will have the lunch. It's possible, I think. Very. I think our forum is very productive. Very, very informative, I think. And especially, I would like to say very thank you all of the participants, even very your visit times, and all of the speakers. Especially, thank you so much, my boss, President of KI-FEIF from the Korea. I think our corporations, especially the shipbuilding sector, is a new sector and kind of the emerging sector between both, especially. I think it will need so much time. But the one thing is our partnership, India and Korea is one of really perfect partner, I think, especially this sector. So especially, I have one question. Is there any other countries to make collaborations in shipbuilding sector from India side except Korea? China? Definitely is impossible. So I think our combinations, our partnership is very, very strategic and very, very important. So today is just only a kind of the starting point. So we have to make more real the corporations to realize something as a project or investment or trade. So I think hopefully that will come true as soon as possible with our strong efforts. KIEP is one of the director. I'm director of the KIEP Delhi office. I do my best to collaborate and to expanding our cooperations between Korea and India, especially shipbuilding or semiconductor or EVs. Thank you so much. Have enjoyed our lunch. Thank you.